So, the Town of Cromwell Planning and Zoning Commission regular meeting of Tuesday, March 3rd, 7 p.m. calling to order. Roll call, Alice Kelly.
Mike Canada.
Andrew Holt.
John Comtois, alternate.
Rich Nordman.
Vincenzo Marfello, alternate.
Yep, we're good.
Okay, well, I'd like to seat an alternate, please.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to seat our alternate,
Second.
And name an alternate.
John Comtois
Right.
and Vincenzo
Okay.
Marfello.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, approval of the agenda. Town planner, do you have any additions?
Yes, so we have a few changes. We're going to hear the temporary event permit tonight for the TPC first. Secondly, we are going to add application 26-09, an application for a re-subdivision approval for public hearing at April 21st meeting. And additionally, we are going to hear application 2605 tonight, grouped together with the other public hearings for 100 Berlin Road.
And that subdivision is located where, town planner?
It is 2 Brookview Road.
Is that all that has to be added tonight?
Yes.
Okay, I'd like to have a motion to approve the amended agenda.
Yep, I'll make a motion to accept the agenda as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, at this time, we have public comments, but the comments, if you're here for our public hearings, at our public hearing time is when you will make the public comments. If you're here just to say something, this is the time that you do it.
Good evening, Planning and Zoning Commission members. I just wanted to, James Demetriadis, 272 Skyview Drive. I just wanted to bring you up to date on some legislative developments that have been happening that we've been monitoring at the state capitol. And I'm sure the planning director will talk about some of these too. There was a public hearing on the snow day, I think it was, maybe, yeah, I think it was the snow day, but maybe it was the day before, on the additional changes to the housing regulations and rules. We had drafted a statement, myself, Mr. Canada, and Ms. Kelly. We haven't finalized it yet, but we do plan to submit it jointly, and I'll copy the commission on it. The legislature is appearing to want to tinker with the housing bill compromise that was passed in the summer. Additionally, with new requirements, including no restrictions on subdivisions, another attempt to deviate from parking requirements, setbacks, and other things that had been put to bed by the compromise but appear to be back alive. So I'm going to finesse that letter and circulate it amongst you all if you guys have any comments for it. But otherwise, the intent is to have Alice, Mike, and myself sign it bipartisanly and send it in to our representative and our state senator. So that when those things, or if those things get out of committee, again, not everything gets out of committee, but if it does get out of committee, we can be on the record about what our position is on those bills. I think housing affordability is a huge crisis, but I don't think the way that we fix it is by legislating ourselves into a corner and letting every which exemption possible be able to interfere with the cohesive design and safety and health of our residents. I think apartments have their place. I think small houses have their places. I think they all have parts to play, but we need to be cognizant of the fact that we have an elected planning and zoning commission that can make decisions based off of each plot of land and what's appropriate for each plot of land, and also making sure that the health and safety of residents are a factor that we consider. So I'll circulate that final draft of that, and thank you for your partnership. I think I called you guys or emailed you guys at 1 o'clock saying I just got an email saying it's due at 3. We weren't able to get the testimony in, but hopefully we can get a letter in across the finish line. So thank you both for your partnership on that, and thank you to the commission for their anticipated partnership on that.
Mayor, are they going to have a public hearing on any of this, or is it just going to be the committee just does what it wants to do?
Well, it appears that the Connecticut legislature already had their public hearing on it. They announced it on a Sunday, and it was for that following Monday, and testimony was due that Monday at 2. So there wasn't enough of a runway for us to have a meeting and be able to deliberate on it more formally. So yeah, it's already happened, but if it comes out of committee, then it goes to the House and the Senate for a debate. And I'm hoping that's where we have, you know, a state representative and a state senator that we can hopefully have advocate on our behalf. And I think having it be bipartisan is really important because this is not a partisan issue. This is
No.
about making sure that we're balancing the need for sustainable development and workforce housing with the fact that every community, all 169 towns, are different and have different things are going to be appropriate in different spots for them. So, you know, balancing the two things. And then ultimately, you're an elected body by the residents, making sure that you and the residents have a, you know, a democratic say. So I think those are the kind of key points that we hit on the letter. So I'll circulate that final draft amongst you all, and then hopefully we can get a thumbs up on it, and before it comes to a floor vote, we can ship it on over. So thank you guys.
On behalf of the commission, I want to say thank you very much for keeping your eyes on the
Absolutely.
prize.
Absolutely, happy to do it. Thank you all.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else who'd like to speak?
Good evening, James Rude, 25 High Ridge Road. I put a call in last week to the zoning enforcement officer about the privacy fence at 100 Berlin Road, and I appreciate that there was a public hearing on the application for that particular property. But the privacy fence surrounding that eyesore here in the town of Cromwell has been fallen down again for the second time. It's been down for at least the last 10 days. And the compliance officer was kind enough to place a call to the owners of that property. And when I drove by today, the privacy fence has still not been restored. Again, for those of us that live in Cromwell, we take pride in our town, and it's disappointing when a piece of property such as that looks as terrible as it does. And I certainly hope that the owners of that property will be kind enough to continue to make it so that it's at least presentable to the folks that drive by. And we hope that during any of the things that happen based on planning and zoning approval, that that piece of property during construction and building is better maintained than it has been over the course of the last 18 or 24 months. It truly is an eyesore here in Cromwell, an embarrassment, and I'm disappointed that it hasn't been taken better care of. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anybody else? Not, moving on. Development Officer, report.
Good evening. It's a very brief report that's in your large packet, but if you have any questions about the report, in the spirit of brevity, I would be glad to address them.
Anybody on the commission wishes to address? Okay, if,
I'll just make one quick
Okay.
comment. I did talk to town manager about 101 South. He said it is an ongoing legal issue right now. It hasn't slipped between the cracks. It's definitely still alive, but I asked him to get me a case number and a docket number so I could track it on the judicial website, and he is gonna look into that for me and get that for me. So I'll keep everybody updated as to what's going on with that. As the snow melts, we'll be able to get a better sight on it, and we'll take it from there.
Thank you.
You bet.
thank you very much. Yes. Anybody else? If not, moving on. Town Manager, do you have a report?
I have no report tonight for the Director of Planning and Development.
Okay, and then you are on now for the new business, application 2605.
Correct. So we do have application 26-09, an application for re-subdivision at 2 Brookview Road, and that will be scheduled for public hearing at the April 21st meeting.
Okay, I'll make a motion to accept and schedule application 2609. Public hearing for April 21st, and that's a re-subdivision at 2 Brookview Road.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And tonight, we now go on to application 2605.
No, we're going to actually go to 2602 first for the temporary event permit.
Oh, I'm sorry. Wait a minute, we have to read the public hearing. Town of Cromwell Planning and Zoning Commission's legal notice. The Town of Cromwell Planning and Zoning Commission will hold a public hearing during the regular meeting on Tuesday, March 3rd, 2026 at 7 p.m. in the Town Council Chambers of the Cromwell Town Hall located at 41 West Street on the following items. 1. Application 26-02, application for a temporary event permit under section 6.3.k of the Town of Cromwell zoning regulations to allow for the PGA Travelers Championship Golf Tournament event at 100 Golf Club Road. The applicant is the Greater Hartford Community Foundation. The owner is Tournament Players Club of Connecticut, Inc. Number 2, application 26-03. Application for a special permit for the Special Flood Zone Overlay District under Section 3.5.A.23 of the Town of Cromwell zoning regulations to allow for a mixed development at 100 Berlin Road and 15R Christian Hill Road.
I think we're gonna go with just, the event permit first, right?
Right, but I'm gonna read them all, and then we can.
Okay.
Okay, so, Christian Hill Road, the applicant is Alpine Residential LLC. The owner is M360 Berlin Land Holdings LLC. 3, application 26-04, application for a special permit to modify an approved master plan under section 3.6.c, parenthesis 5 of the Town of Cromwell zoning regulations at 100 Berlin Road and 15R Christian Hill Road. The applicant is Alpine Residential LLC. The owner is M360 Berlin Land Holding LLC. Application number 4, application 26-06. Application for a special permit for filling under section 5.6 of the Town of Cromwell zoning regulations at 100 Berlin Road and 15R Christian Hill Road. The applicant is Alpine Residential LLC. The owner is M360 Berlin Land Holdings LLC. At this hearing, interested persons may appear and be heard and written testimony received. The applications are available for public inspection in the Office of Planning and Development. Alice Kelly, Chair, dated in Cromwell, Connecticut, this Thursday, February 9, 2026, and Thursday, February 26, 2026. Okay, so we can move on to the first one.
Okay,
Wanna open it?
and that is a public hearing, so I'll make a motion to open the public hearing for application 2602, temporary event permit, for the Tournament Players Club.
Second on that, please?
Second.
Okay.
Good evening, Madam Chair. Excuse me, members of the commission. My name is David DeBasio. I'm an attorney at Hinckley Allen, and I am the attorney for the Greater Hartford Community Foundation that's operating the event known as the Travelers Championship. It's our great privilege to be before you again, as we have been for many years. In light of your heavy agenda and the weather as well, I'm going to take my lead from one of the town officers and keep my remarks brief before I turn it over to my colleague Kevin Harrington. We're here to get a permit to operate the Travelers Championship in June of 2026. And as this commission knows, one of the key benefits to this event taking place in Cromwell is 100% of the net proceeds go to benefit charities in the Greater Hartford area, both in town and throughout the entire state. Since Travelers has come on as our sponsor in 2007, more than $35 billion has been generated by the tournament for over 1,000 local charities. As recently as 2025, $4 million was distributed to 206 nonprofits here in the state of Connecticut. Operationally, and I should say in terms of the entertainment that you're going to see, we're going to have 70 of the top golf professionals in the world coming to compete here in Cromwell in June of 2026. We're going to be offering one of the largest purses outside of the majors. It's a signature event. It's come to be an event that all of the players and their families look forward to on the calendar, not just because of the great job that the TPC River Highlands, Mr. Grube and his crew do in putting on the event, but because of the hospitality and how much they love coming to this particular area. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over, as I said, to my colleague Kevin Harrington, and he's going to go over the operational plan. And thankfully, at this point, we don't have a lot of changes from what
the Senior Director of Operations for the Travelers Championship. I just want to thank you for the opportunity to present here this evening. And I also want to mention that we, sincerely appreciate the partnership, obviously dating back, I think that we've hosted the tournament, partnered together since the mid-'80s. And if I'm not mistaken, this is my 20th consecutive year speaking to you all for this, this permit, so I appreciate the opportunity. As Dave mentioned, we're applying for our temporary event permit to operate the 2026 Travelers Championship. I'm going to walk you guys through our event dates, comment a little bit on the status of the event within the PGA Tour, go through our gate operations, comment on our special events, as well as our parking, and then go over our setup and removal schedule as well. Event dates, we are June 22nd to the 28th this summer, and that is 1 week later on the calendar than we were last year. But essentially, we follow the U.S. Open. The U.S. Open historically falls on Father's Day. Father's Day falls about 6 days later than last year, so June 22nd to the 28th are our dates this year. As Dave mentioned, from an event status standpoint, we are a signature event on the PGA Tour, and very proud to continue our tradition of donating 100% of our net proceeds to charity. And as Dave mentioned, we'll be the only PGA Tour event in New England again this year, and the final signature event heading into the FedEx Cup playoffs. So, and for us, with NBC covering the event this year, we'll have a nice. Our coverage leads right into Sunday Night Baseball on NBC for the first time, so it'll be a nice little sports weekend for us to be, I think, a part of that. And if I'm not mistaken, it's Red Sox Yankees, so I think a lot of people will be tuning into NBC that Sunday. As it relates to our entry gates, we'll be open to the public again Wednesday through Sunday. We operate 4 general admission public-facing gates. We have our main entrance, which is adjacent to our gold lot. Our gold lot, I think, is affectionately referred to as the bean field for a lot of the those who come to the event regularly. And then we have our 9th hole gate, which is adjacent to the red lot and pink lot, which is the left side of Golf Club Road on the map. And then we also operate our 8th gate, which is adjacent to the green lot, just across the street on Field Road. And then we operate a gate as well. It's not connected specifically to tournament parking, but we do have a gate, we call it our 5-6 gate, which is at the south end of Field Road, and leveraged, I think, quite a bit by some of the residents down there. From a special event standpoint, we'll be continuing to operate a modified special event schedule and post-event activities as we have for the last few years. The prom events will be held Monday and Wednesday, consistent with prior years, and our Women's Day event will continue to happen on Thursday, June 25th. From a parking standpoint, we've been working with Cromwell PD, and coming out of last year, we did acknowledge there was some improvements we could make on the outbound flow of traffic. We've worked very well with Cromwell PD and Rocky Hill PD in the traffic heading northbound, and those lights have been staffed, and they've been situated in a way to help flush the traffic northbound. And we're going to work with Cromwell PD in doing that southbound, where they're going to have some officers at Main and Court to help with the push for southbound traffic. In addition to that, we've also relocated our rideshare operation, which was in our green lot, and our green lot had majority southbound traffic. So we're going to move that back to our red lot where we had it in 2024 with much success. We just felt like we would have more success in the green lot, but with the changes we're making with flushing everybody southbound, we just feel the rideshare operation will function much better back in the red lot adjacent to our 9th hole gate for this year. Consistent with prior years, we will have a partial road closure of Golf Club Road. That is, as you pull up Golf Club Road, you hit the stop sign, take a left. That section of Golf Club Road will be closed Wednesday from 6:30 a.m. to 7 p.m. and then Thursday through Sunday from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And then similarly on Field Road, which same area, you head up Golf Club Road, take a right at that stop sign. That section of Field Road heading down to our 5-6 gate, we've referred to that as a partial road closure of Field Road, so no through traffic. The residents can still get to their area, and that again is Wednesday 6:30 a.m. to 7 p.m. And we say or end of play, and a play could be a few minutes before 7 p.m. or a few minutes after, and we've worked well with Cromwell PD to as play ends to open those roads back up. And again, Thursday through Sunday, that would be a 7A to 7P. And generally those times are based on our tee times. Wednesday's tee times are a little earlier, so therefore the road closure is a little earlier. Once we have the general public out there, we like to have the road closures really help with getting people across the street safely and access to and from the tournament. And then pending approval from the Board of Ed, we are looking to host stage our off-site ADA handicap accessible parking at Woodside Intermediate School as we have in the past. And I think they typically wait until they have that final day of school locked in to issue the approval, so hopefully we'll get that shortly. From a construction standpoint, we will remain with a 10-week build on the setup side and 3 weeks on the tear down. That's consistent with prior years. And I would comment that when comparing it to events of similar size and scope, it's a significantly condensed timeline compared to a lot of my counterparts and colleagues around the country. I think part of that is partly due to the fact that we still have the snow on the ground, so we couldn't start much earlier than April 1st. But we also, I think, get off the golf course quite a bit faster than other PGA Tour events. I think that's important to point out, just that we acknowledge there is an inconvenience and an impact with the trucks and the construction and the setup, but we do work incredibly hard to make it happen in a very short time window and then get out of here as soon as we possibly can. From a sequencing of the build, what we've typically done is 10 weeks out, we typically start out in our gold lot and work in some of the off the golf course areas, which lets the golf course get reestablished and all that, from a growing standpoint. And after those first 2 weeks of us working primarily in gold lot and then gray and red and green in those areas, we move out to the 17th tee, 16th green area, and then we start to work our way around the pond, and then we finish up on the 18th hole fan zone area, kind of middle of the golf course. And the last areas we take over the parking lots in the clubhouse itself, as the club is in operation until the Thursday prior to the event at 5 p.m. So a little coordination with them on that. I would say we've been on the teardown. We do the essentially the same sequencing, but in reverse. We'll start, clubhouse, center of the golf course, and work our way back out. But we do make a little bit of an exception in that there's a few properties abutting the golf course that we try and make sure we have a significant just starting of teardown on those, to where if we can get out of someone's backyard, before July 4th, this year it'll be challenging given that, the July 4th is a week closer than in prior years. But we have had a lot of success in the last couple of years, whether it's Glenwood Terrace. There's a couple on the, in other areas of the golf course where we've done, everything we can to, just get cleaned up and get out of there. So it's, it's as minimal impact as possible. We've been very thankful in the flexibility that's been granted over the past couple of years. As the schedule we've submitted, we've explained in the past, and I think it's worked well. Hopefully we've felt it has, and we hope you guys have felt the same, where we've used it to serve as a guidepost, but obviously as, whether it's shipping challenges, weather challenges, as we're experiencing here tonight, supply chain and logistics during the pandemic, a lot of those things impact our ability to do, if the schedule says bleachers on 8 on May 4th, we might have to do that a week earlier, it might be a week later based on a lot of those challenges. And I think, with us staying within the 10 and the 3, I think it's worked well on our end, and we hope the same for you guys with that flexibility. Consistent with 2025, we are going to start with we try and start with a very large crew, where that wasn't always the case, and that lets us just get a good jump start on the construction and try and mitigate those delays and challenges. And similarly, we do the same on the teardown, where we try and start with the largest crew we can get our hands on, just to get off property as soon as possible. In closing, we feel like we can produce another world-class event here in Cromwell with the same parameters that have previously been allowed. We did have a couple of editorial changes within the document of the planning and zoning conditions, but those were relating to dates. Obviously, it reflected the 2025 construction schedule or construction summary. This year, it should reflect the 2026 construction summary. And then there were a few others as it relates to timing of, so you had a condition 10, condition 17, and then I believe condition 18 and 19 both reference the same hours that are there. The hours would remain the same. It's just making sure the dates align with us being about 6 days later on the calendar than when we were last year. And then condition 1 on page 3, the same. That concludes my presentation. Questions?
Commissioners, do you have any questions or comments for our applicant?
I have one. Can you do us a favor next year, and the sheet with the map on it?
Yes.
And the legend on the right-hand side, can you make the legend on a separate sheet with much bigger writing?
Sure.
It was real tough, real tough read.
Right. Also, I would like to say is that next year when you come, could you have something that will show when you're talking about the gates? So
Sure.
that you can do something up here rather than looking at pink, green, yellow, and just
Absolutely.
show where the gates are?
I can call those out, yeah.
Okay. Okay, does anybody have,
Anybody else?
anybody else? Yes,
Kevin, do you foresee any environmental issues in getting this up and running? Rainwater or anything else that might be potentially be some sort of hazard? It doesn't look like there would be, but I would just like to clear that and get it out in the open.
Sure, not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
Not that I'm aware of. Welcome.
okay, is there anyone here from the public that wishes to speak?
My name is Jay Polk, 15 Harrison Drive, longtime resident of Cromwell. As everybody knows, this is a top-notch operation that they have here. And I live a couple blocks away on the southwestern side of the golf course. There's never been any traffic problems, either in my neighborhood or getting out to Main Street. Trying to read my notes, I can't even read my own writing here. I mean, it's a wonderful thing that an event like this comes to town and all the revenue is donated to charities. And for a week, we get national exposure for future economic development, which hopefully could help our tax base. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Good evening, Chris Cambray, 10 Sachem Drive. I'd just like to say that I hope you approve this tonight, and I'd like to correct Mr. Polk. We get international attention instead of just national attention. That's okay. Just so for next year that you recognize that's national attention, and I just hope you approve that. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, Mr., do you have anything to say?
Yeah, so no staff concerns. As we know, they are very responsible, wonderful partners with the town, and their track record reflects that. So we enthusiastically recommend approval tonight with the conditions before you.
Okay. I'm gonna read the conditions, so.
I have a question for Andrew. We have a letter in our packet from Mora.
Yes.
So, and we also have a letter from the fire district. Neither one of them have problems enumerated, but they do have conditions enumerated. So in their approval, in addition to your 3 points, I think it might be prudent to include Mora's letter of 219, the fire district's letter of 219, recognizing their 2026 construction summary, and recognizing their 2-page event summary that was submitted by the applicant.
I agree.
All,
Yeah, that'd be
all
a
as
good
part
idea.
of their approval, if that's fine with you.
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay. In that case, hearing no other questions or comments, I'd like to make a motion to approve. And this is, yeah, that's 2602. Okay. Okay, so do you want me to read this, or? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, yes,
And away we go. All right.
transparent.
I'll make a motion to approve application 2602. I move to approve 2602 application for the tournament, for the temporary event permit under section 6.3.K of the Town of Cromwell zoning regulations to allow for the PGA Travelers Championship Golf Tournament event at 100 Golf Club Road. The applicant is Greater Hartford Community Foundation. The owner is Tournament Players Club of Connecticut with the following stipulations. Signs indicating the location of drinking water will be posted at all food tents. Sufficient cups will be available at drinking water locations. Proper roping, fencing will be in place to prevent spectators from wandering onto any construction areas. Dust control, if necessary, will be maintained by a water truck with sprayer. Noise-producing equipment will be located or screened to minimize impact on adjacent residences. Mats or mulching will be placed in front of all beverage serving booths. The access road to the main parking area will be maintained in a condition satisfactory to the Public Works Director. The permittee will discourage parties from using Coles Road to shuttle spectators to and from the event. Buses operated by the permittee will not use Coles Road to shuttle spectators to and from the tournament. The dumpsters located off Glenwood Terrace will not be emptied outside of the hours of 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. The operation of the tournament will be in conformance with the 2026 tournament construction schedule submitted and approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission. The applicants shall provide timely information to the community by website or email. Emergency vehicle only signs will be installed at the east end of Ridge Road. The green screening mesh material shall be removed within 3 weeks of the end of the event. Golf cart drivers must be 16 years of age. Monitor dust conditions in the vicinity of 51 Field Road and water when necessary. Install a fence on the north side of 24 Field Road to protect the lawn from cars exiting and entering the parking area. The following are additional conditions per meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission on February 6, 2024. The hours will be from 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. from Monday, June 15th, 2026 to Friday, July 3rd, 2026. The additional conditions per meeting with the River Highlands Homeowners Association on March 18th, 2008, updated to March 19th, 2013. The time allowed for construction tear down as well as any deliveries and maintenance shall be limited to between 7 a.m. and 10 p.m. The hours will be from 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. Monday, June 15th, 2026 to Friday, July 3rd, 2026. Trucks, vehicles, and construction equipment shall not be left to idle within 50 feet of a home for more than 5 minutes. Tournament vehicles shall not park on any River Highlands roads or at the mail center. Tournament shall provide temporary fencing along both sides of the entrance and exit roads, the inner edge of Highland Green, and the south and north and south edge of Highland Crossing in the same way that the TPC property is fenced in order to protect the grass and irrigation system and sprinkler heads. Provide an informational briefing to all homeowners as well as contact numbers to the Executive Board of RHHA. And lastly, Tournament Committee shall assign a contact person to the River Highlands Homeowners Association who will have the authority to correct any deviations from those agreed to requests. This person will have the authority to fix the problems. And I'd also like to recognize the memo of Maura, our town sanitarian, or our town health officer. I'd like to recognize the letter of the fire district. Both of those letters are dated 2/19. And I'd like to recognize the letter of our town Director of Planning and Development, Andrew Armstrong. That letter is dated February 26th, 2026.
Could I have a second on that, please? Any comments? If not, I'm calling for approval. All in favor?
Aye.
And Town Planner, you will give to the tournament all these copies of these letters, right?
Yes, I will.
Thank
I'll
you.
give them the final conditions.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
At
We'll
least
see
you don't have to
next
worry
year, and
about 2
best of
feet
luck
of
with
snow.
the rest of your agenda.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hopefully we have an uneventful event.
Yes.
Well, unlike last year.
moving forward. Town planner. 2603, and then I think also 2605. They're all going in at the same time, correct?
Yes, so
All in favor?
All right, good evening. For the record, my name's Megan Hope. I'm an attorney with Alter, Pearson & Hope in Glastonbury. I'm here tonight representing Alpine Residential LLC. All right, good evening. For the record, my name's Megan Hope. I'm an attorney with Alter, Pearson & Hope in Glastonbury. I'm here tonight representing Alpine Residential LLC. They're contract purchasers for 100 Berlin Road and also 15R Christian Hill Road, which is a contiguous lot, currently with no improvements. We've submitted 4 applications. As was mentioned earlier, 3 of those are public hearings. Those are for the flood zone overlay, special permit for filling, and also a special permit to modify the master plan that was approved by this commission back in September. We also filed a site plan modification. That's just a regular agenda item, but I'm going to give testimony and a presentation on all of them. You can vote separately at the end. We do have a pretty detailed PowerPoint presentation tonight, but just to give you an introduction of our team, we have members of Alpine Residential LLC here with us tonight, Bill Rosado, Todd Scheffler, and also Nick Rosado, who are in the building with us tonight. You'll also be hearing from Jason Williams, who is our landscape architect, Rock Eamon, our civil engineer with SLR, Mark Bertucci, our professional engineer with Buston O'Neill, and then we also have Colin Grosier, our architect with Finefield Architects. Just wanted to put on the record as far as housekeeping. We did post the public hearing signs, submitted the sign affidavit, and also completed the required certificate of mailing for all the public hearings that we're having tonight, and submitted that to staff. So those have all been received. If you could go, Rock, go back a couple, sorry. Keep going back. Yeah, here we go. All right. So I've introduced all the team members. The outline for tonight is that we'll start with the existing site conditions and zoning. I am going to show you a comparison with the previous approvals and the current proposal, and I've sort of done that in 3 ways. I have a comparison of the site plans. I did a comparison with a chart showing units and parking and things like that, building height. And then we also have a cross-section comparison as well. So we're hoping by showing you those comparisons in 3 different ways can sort of address questions we have, the commission has, and the public about what's different between the past approval, which was a mixed-use approval, and what we're proposing tonight. We'll go through obviously our detailed landscaping and amenity plans, all the site plans for utilities and grading and soil and erosion controls. We'll present the architecture, and then we've also did a detailed study of the building height analysis from Christian Hill Road. That was one of the comments we received quite loudly at the master plan meeting back in September. So we did conduct a balloon study on site, and then superimpose our proposed renderings to give a better sense of what the building will look like from Christian Hill Road. And then at the end, I'll talk about next steps that we have, hopefully following this meeting, should we get approved. All right, you go to the next one.
Just one thing.
Yeah.
Just want to pass out the presentation.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I do have the PowerPoint all in paper as well. Sorry, thank you. Okay.
Thank you. Bruce, is that Debbie yet? Okay, thank you very much.
It's disconnected. Stephen. Stephen.
Thanks, Rob.
Yep.
He's not here.
All right, so while we had, sorry, Ron, you back to the Alpine slide. I know I had discussed Alpine's portfolio at the previous meeting in September, but I did just want to touch on it again. Alpine Residential is the development division of Beechwold Residential. They own 70%
72 properties, almost over 16,000 apartments, 230,000 square feet of retail. They have developments in Connecticut, New Jersey, New York, and Florida. And we have some photos at the bottom of some of their properties in Connecticut and New Jersey. But what I want to convey to the commission is really the experience that the applicant has. We have experience in development, and then also, if you go to the next slide, Rock, go to the next one, please. We also have experience in managing those properties as well. So we have a vertically integrated setup with this current applicant where we're working on the development and then passing it off to some of our other partners, Beachwold Residential, regarding the management, the leasing and management of it. And then if you go to the next slide, Rock, we have South Oxford Management. They will actually be the group managing 100 Berlin Road. It's very helpful when you know the property manager while you're doing the development side of an application, because we can have conversations with them about what the residents in this area need to see for amenities and layouts for apartment and things like that. So that's been very integral in our design. We know that what we're showing the commission is something that we know a renter in Cromwell will like. So that helps make the process more seamless and more tailored to the town. Go to the next slide, please. So we're all obviously familiar with the hotel and the current state of it. It was at one time a hotel with 215 rooms, had a banquet facility that could seat up to 1,100 people, but obviously now it's totally dilapidated and obviously an eyesore for the town. It's been closed for several years now. Inside has been ripped apart. I think all the piping has been ripped out. I know there's been urban explorers in there, so it's been a terrible state the past couple of years. You go to the next slide, please, Rock. We're all very familiar with what it looks like from the street. Then go to the next slide, Rock, as well. And then inside, obviously, is horrible as well. Pipes and bursts. There's mold everywhere, so it's in a very terrible state and in need, clearly, of demolition. So we're hoping that what we can do with this proposal, once it's approved, is move forward, obviously, and demolish the building. Next slide, please. I know everyone's familiar with the site, but just to provide some context, our site's a little over 12 acres, located on the north side of Berlin Road, just to the east of I-91. And obviously, it's a sort of long and narrow site, currently improved with the hotel, running that commercial corridor on its front with Berlin Road, and then Christian Hill Road is a residential area to the north. Next slide, please. So this is an existing conditions plan of the site. Again, just to orient you, Berlin Road is over to the left side of your screen. Christian Hill is over to the right side of your screen. But we do have the existing hotel building towards Berlin Road. The existing parking garage is to the rear. As far as the elevation of this site, it's rising from elevation 23 at Berlin Road all the way up to elevation 63 when you get to Christian Hill Road right there. So it's rising about 40 feet. So that's important to keep in mind as we go through the site plans. We've sort of marched our buildings up the hill following that existing topography. We do have a very long and narrow portion of the lot that we're building on. It's about 450 feet wide and then 1,200 feet in depth between the two roads. We do have we have Colesbrook obviously to the east side of the property. There's wetlands associated with that, and that yellow line there is the limits of the 100-year flood. Most of the flood zone is off the area that we're developing, but we have a little portion down by the site entry where the flood zone sort of creeps in to the property. Just also wanted to point out the cell phone tower that's over in that top corner of the site. That's even higher than Christian Hill Road. The bottom of that's about elevation 76, and it's a 95-foot tower, so it goes all the way up to 171. So just wanted to give you that sort of context as we look at the site plans, because the topography is definitely important in how we've designed the site. Next slide, please. From a zoning perspective, you did change the zone of these two properties back in 2022. So they're both zoned mixed use. That's both 100 Berlin Road and also 15R Christian Hill Road. To the left side of your screen, we have the highway business zone, and then to the right, in and around Christian Hill Road, is the R25 residential district. And then obviously I-91 is to the top of the screen. Next slide, please. All right, so to provide some additional context on the approvals, obviously back in 2022, this commission did approve a zone change from highway business and R40 to mixed use for both of the lots. You did also approve a master plan at that time. Following that, we went to wetlands, got a wetlands permit for the previous proposal, and then came back to you in November of 2022, where you approved the special permits for the mixed-use development. It took about a year to get the tax abatement agreement finalized for the project. That was done in October of 2023. And then the project sat dormant for a couple of years before Alpine came in as a potential contract purchaser for the site from the owners. Once Alpine started looking at the plan, used their experience and what the market really wanted for this site, we came back in September of 2025 to modify the previously approved master plan. It was similar, still a mixed-use project, but had some variations from the previous plan. Following that meeting, it took us a few months to create the site plans, grade the site out. We then went to wetlands, got a permit from them in January, went to WPCA in February, where they approved our connection fees, and then we're here with you tonight on the special permits and the modification to the site plan. Next slide, please. Okay. So this was the previously approved site plan, and what I'm going to show you in the next two slides is the previously approved site plan, and then I'll show you our current proposal. So again, just to orient you, Berlin Road is over to the left side of your screen. The orange building at the road was the proposed commercial building, and then what you see in purple is residential. They had a mix of both multifamily units and also townhomes, which are around the edge of the property. They had a mix of parking. Some of it was surface, as you can see on the screen. That's all those gray areas. And then they also were keeping the parking garage. They also were keeping the parking garage. Sorry. Do you want me to keep going?
No, I'm just saying is that unfortunately, our system is not working correctly.
Okay.
And so the people at home that are watching this cannot hear anything.
Okay.
They can hear.
What?
They can hear.
No.
It's just the TV that's off.
They can't hear. Can she hear?
She said no. She said she's got a dead feed.
She's got a dead feed. For how long? Excuse me, sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, he's trying on his phone and it's locked up.
Looks like it stopped at the TPC presentation.
Okay.
Do we dare start it down and then start over?
Well, it's not start over.
Right. I mean,
It is recording. Just give it a second. Dave's gonna reboot the stream. It's just not live.
Right.
oh, right.
Okay, so we'll give it a chance to reboot the stream so we can go live.
That'd be great.
That would be great.
So that we can have the people online can hear and see.
Before the PowerPoint went up. Sorry. Electronics. Sometimes good, sometimes not so good.
We can take a break.
We can keep going. It's recording. It's not gonna be live.
Okay.
He's gonna try on his phone.
If
but
you can't do it, we're just gonna go ahead with it.
yeah, because he's not home. He's at a conference in Florida right now.
Right, no, that's right, right.
It's recording. This will be posted on YouTube. Everyone will be able to watch it.
Right.
It's just not live. It's just not live. We don't need to be live. But
Yeah, absolutely.
No, we'll keep going.
No, we're not gonna stop.
We're not gonna stop.
I would just keep going.
Just give it the old college try for 1 minute.
Yep. Give it a chance.
I agree. I agree.
It's just the box. It's because it just can't handle so many presentations. It's not Dave's fault, that's for sure.
No, not his fault.
Yeah.
He didn't put it in. Good.
It's just from the computers being plugged in and unplugged so many times.
It had nothing to do with it.
Does it have anything to do with the switch from .com to .gov?
No.
No?
No.
Listen,
I like your thinking, Mike.
This stuff is like up here for me, so you might as well be speaking Greek to me. If Nick was here, he could speak Greek to me, and I wouldn't understand that either.
Is it on now or what?
We're not live, no.
We're never going to be live.
No, he's trying from his phone.
Oh, okay.
Okay, well, maybe we'll get a plus surprise.
I don't know.
I don't want to hold up the presentation.
We can keep going. It's recording.
Okay.
They could always watch after it's posted.
We're going back live.
Going back again.
Live here.
We're going to reconvene at this time.
Reconvening, please. Thank you.
All right, again, for the record, Megan Hope with Alter, Pearson and Hope. What we have on the next couple slides will be the comparison between the previously approved plans and what we're currently proposing. So on the screen in front of you is the previously approved site plan from November of 2022. Again, Berlin Road's on the left side of your screen, Christian Hill is on the right. The orange building at the front was the commercial building, and then the purple buildings in the center and to the right side of the screen were the multifamily units, and then they had the townhome units sort of as a buffer between the multifamily units and the single-family homes on Christian Hill. 15R Christian Hill Road was left just for passive recreation with a trail that led to the sewer easement, but otherwise was fairly untouched from its current condition. One thing I did want to point out with this map is that the existing parking garage portion of that was staying with this plan. In the next proposal, you'll see that's been removed, but that was one thing that this plan had was a lot of covered parking. A lot of it was under the multifamily units towards the front side of the site, and then there also was additional parking underneath the buildings to the easterly or to the northerly side of the site as well. Next slide. This is our current site plan. So we are somewhat consistent with the overall theme of what was previously approved. We have the commercial building down towards Berlin Hill Road, and then we have the multi-family building sort of marching up the hill. One of the main changes with our site plan is that the grading is much different than what was previously approved because we removed that existing parking garage from the site plan. We were able to regrade the site, and one thing that we think was an advantage was that the buildings now are on the surface. We don't have any parking underneath, so we've been able to engage the buildings into the site. So you're going to have a much better pedestrian experience with this current site plan because in the previous design, you'd be walking up to the buildings and you'd be looking in at the first floor of parking. And now with our plan, what you're going to see is the buildings are all engaged with that pedestrian level, and you're looking in on these expansive courtyards. We do feel that change was a positive, and it really had to do with eliminating that parking garage, which allowed us to regrade the site to fit these new buildings, and we think it was quite effective. We have all surface parking, so nothing is covered. Regarding 15R Christian Hill Road, that still is very much the same. We have access down to the sewer easement. We do have a ramp getting down there now, which is something we didn't have before, but overall, passive recreation is what we're proposing there. What I've highlighted in yellow on the right side of the screen is I just highlighted where there is an existing fence and where we're proposing to sort of extend that as a way to demarcate where the private lots end and our property begins, to make it clear any of the tenants using that area where they should be walking. Go to the next slide, please. Okay, I did have Rock's group do an overlay to give you a sense of how the master plan has changed since you saw it a few months ago in September. We did have some slight adjustments in that first multifamily building that had to do with grading, and so that was about 25 feet different as far as split it back a little bit. The multifamily building further to Christian Hill didn't change at all. We did have a slight reduction to the commercial area on the front building. However, we did add outdoor amenity areas that would be associated with the restaurant there as well, but that's what you're seeing on the front portion of the site. And some of the parking obviously was a little bit different, but generally the same. In some instances, we pulled it further away from the wetlands, in some instances it's a little bit closer. But generally, you have the same parking layout that we showed you back in September. All right, next slide, please. All right, this is a chart comparing the plan that was approved in 2022. That's in that second column. In the middle column is the master plan that we showed you in September of 2025, and then that column all the way to the right is the current plan. So from the previously approved master plan, we have had a reduction in commercial square footage. What we're currently proposing with this project is 10,000 square feet. It's all going to be within that commercial building that's right along Berlin Road. There will be a 4,000 square foot coffee shop, 2,000 square feet of a high turnover sit-down restaurant, 2,000 square feet of a general retail store, and then 2,000 square feet of medical or dental office. We have broken down those uses, and when Mark Bertucci gets up to talk about the parking, that was an integral part in doing our shared parking analysis. We are asking for a parking waiver as part of this project, but we base that on the analysis that Mark has done based on this mix of compatible uses. So that's why I've broken out those current commercial uses in the chart. From a unit perspective, we've actually decreased units from what was previously approved in 2022. We've obviously eliminated the townhomes. We have 267 units. 10% of those will be affordable. That's part of the tax abatement agreement that was approved previously by the town council. And we're showing you our mix of units there. Mostly 1 and 2 bedrooms is what we're proposing. Our overall parking count is 503 parking spaces. As I mentioned previously, they're all going to be surface parking spaces. Our amenity areas stayed about the same, actually increased a little bit, but we've got a bunch of detail slides coming up on the passive and active areas and other indoor areas, the pools and the courtyards later on in the PowerPoint. Regarding building height, we've had no change to the overall building height that was previously approved in 2022. It was always 5 stories with a max elevation of 106, and we've maintained that. So there's been no change in the building height. And regarding Christian Hill Road, that's still only for pedestrian and emergency access only. So we've maintained that there'll be only one way that vehicles can enter the site, and that'll be at Berlin Road. Next slide, please. All right, so we created this cross-section comparison after feedback we received at the master plan meeting. Several of the neighbors and members of the commission, I think, were having a hard time visualizing how the massing of the proposed project compared to the previous approval. So at the top of the screen, this is a cross-section, and just to orient you, Christian Hill Road is over to the left side of your screen, and Berlin Road is over to the right side of your screen. So this is almost as if you're sort of on that I-91 on-ramp looking towards the site. So when you see the blue boxes, that is where the previous approval had buildings. So starting at that top picture, starting at your left, that first blue box is where the townhomes were, close to Christian Hill Road. And then as you move towards the right, that next blue box was the multifamily building. That 1-story connector was the amenity area. Then we have the second multifamily building. And then you can go all the way to the right is where we had that 1-story commercial building. So what I did on the picture at the bottom of the screen is really just an enlargement of that left side of the top picture. And what I wanted to do was zoom in so you can see what we're proposing a little bit clearer. The building you see sort of grayed out in the background, that's what we're proposing. So as you can see from the bottom picture, we've obviously pulled the residential uses in any of the buildings much further away. They're currently 276 feet from the property line at Christian Hill Road. And as you can see as well, where that max line of the previous approval was, we're not exceeding that. Our roof entry points are in a little bit different of location, but that same height is still maintained. All the way over on the right side of the screen and that bottom quarter, what I highlighted there, it's a little bit hard to see, but I did a little red line to show where the screening was. Yeah, right there, where the screening is. We do have mechanical units, obviously, on the top. They're set back from the edge of the roof. They do have a 6-foot screen, but we have accounted for the height of the mechanical screening in the cross sections as well. We have a slide further in the architecture section of the presentation where you can see that a little bit more clearly. Okay, next slide, please. All right, so with that, I'm going to pass it over to Jason, and then to Rock, and then we'll do traffic and architecture, and then I'll come up and do some concluding remarks.
Thanks, Matt. Good evening, Madam Chair, Vice Chair, Commission members, staff. For the record, my name is Jason Williams. I'm Senior Principal Landscape Architect with SLR Consulting. I'm going to briefly go through site plan, which I'm sure you know pretty well, as well as some of the great site features that we do have here on site. My colleague over here is going to use the cursor as I move, starting at the entrance in the southeast of the property. Along Berlin Road, we have sidewalks as well as beautiful landscaping. We have a nice decorative color textured crosswalk that acts as an apron coming into our site. And the buildings are placed along a central line access in the site, starting, as you've heard, with the 1-story retail building, followed by a 6-story multifamily building, a jewel box indoor amenity feature at the pool, and then a 5-story multifamily building. Now, the building massing and the layout of the buildings create these wings that allow for these open parklets and courtyards that create this visual and physical connection into the site. So when you're driving or walking through the site, you can really look into these courtyard spaces. Single parking aisles with speed humps surround our retail building and run along the eastern and the western side of the site, leading to the north where we have a tiered parking area. Some notable features include loading space behind the retail building, a vehicular drop-off area at the Jewel Box amenity building, handicap spaces at pedestrian entrances into the buildings, EV charging stations, and concrete curbing and sidewalks which link pedestrians between buildings throughout the entire site and to our trail system. So let's start at the southernmost building and our courtyard. Within this 6-story building, we've programmed a passive, relaxing amenity space, which is based on principles of the Miyawaki forest. This is a regenerative forest technique. The open parklet includes colored concrete walkways that run through varying species of trees and
excuse me, sir. These are 5-story buildings.
Sorry, what did I say?
You said 6.
Oh, sorry, 5-story.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have a 5 and a 6, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
They're
both 5. They're both 5.
Oh, 6, 1, 2? 6-story? No.
Those are 5.
Both 5.
Okay.
On the actual picture, it says 6.
Right. I just wanted to.
On the actual PowerPoint, it says 6.
It
For
does.
the record.
Oh, geez. Correction, 5-story building and retail 1-story building.
Mm-hmm.
So going back to our passive amenity space, we've got colorized concrete sidewalks that move through heavily vegetated area that connects tenants to small seating areas, a communal plaza space with an overhead pergola, synthetic turf spaces with Adirondack chairs, and stairs that lead down to the sidewalk and parking areas. Moving to the center open space set between the two buildings, we have our indoor pool amenity space. Just to the east, you can see the indoor amenity building. And to the west are 20 by 40 foot pools surrounded by chaise lounges and day beds. To the west of the pool plaza, we have two restroom buildings in white that are flanking a cabana structure identified as number 15. Underneath the cabana structure, we have cushioned seating. On the north side, we have a paver plaza, which has seating areas with fire tables and catenary lighting above. This area is semi-screened from the pool by a row of trees, small flowering trees. And then on the south side of this plaza, in yellow, you can see large massing of ornamental grasses that gently screens this southern paver area, which includes an outdoor kitchen, table seating, and an overhead pergola. Our northernmost plaza has been programmed as the active space. Perimeter landscaping and sidewalks which surround this open activity area. You can see, identified as number 1, we have a paver plaza area with ping pong tables, tables and chairs, and overhead catenary lighting. We have open lawn space, identified as number 7, for cornhole and lawn games. 2 vegetated mounds, one of them with a sculpture that helps to slightly conceal in the south a paver plaza with tables and an architectural overhead feature. In this plaza as well, stairs lead down to the sidewalk and the parking areas. 2 additional site features, Meg touched on the outdoor plazas to the east and the west of the retail building. And on the northeast of the site, on the right, you can see a concrete switchback handicap accessible ramp which leads down to a stone dust trail connecting to the adjacent sewer easement and walking path. The landscaping on the site was fairly easy. We tend to take an ecological approach when we're doing landscaping. All of our plants that we're using are native plants. On the west side of our site, we have dry soils, upland, ecotone. On the east side of the site, adjacent to the wetland, we have fac wet, fac up, ecotone. And so the plants within our site just take the cues from the existing woodlands. What is growing there should be growing in our site. So as we come into our entrance, you can see in light green, we've got a grouping of sycamore trees. We move into red maples just behind the retail building. And as we work our way up on the west-hand side, we really have a dense planting in this dry hillside of red oaks, shagbark hickories, and dogwoods. As we make our way to the northwest, we're coming in with some more screening with white pines, eastern red cedar, quaking aspen, which exists there predominantly. In our upper tier parking area, we're coming in with red maples, hop hornbeams. The landscape medians on our site are planted with low bush blueberry. You don't see this very often. You see junipers, ornamental grasses. As we make our way down to the eastern portion of the site, we are vegetating both sides of the trail going down to the sewer easement with red and silky dogwood. And our buffer along the eastern portion of our site include things like black cherry, gray birch, red maple, and the dogwoods. So a very ecological approach to the landscaping plan. When we look at lighting, typically we take a very soft touch with lighting. We don't want any lighting going over property lines. We do not use bright white LEDs. All of our lighting within the parking areas are on 20-foot poles. The LEDs are 3,000 Kelvin, which is actually warmer than moonlight. For the site, the average foot candles are about 0.64. We like to stay in a range of 0.5 to 1 foot candle. And for the upper parking area, we wanted to have a little bit more light for those winter evenings, so we're at about 1.7 foot candles. All the luminaires on the site are dark skies compliant. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Rob to discuss drainage and sedimentary erosion.
Good evening. Just for the record, Rock Evans, senior civil engineer with SR International Corporation, office of 99 York Drive, Connecticut. Also moonlighting as the presentation person. We'll talk a little bit about drainage utilities. So, under the existing conditions, the existing Red Lion Hotel actually occupies about 7.12 acres of impervious. The previous proposed and approved site plan also reduced the amount of impervious on the site to, I think it was 6.5 acres of impervious. Under this current proposal, we're at 6.65. So we're still a reduction in overall amount of impervious on the parcel. That accounts for about, technically, if you include Christian Hill Road, the original approved was about 50.75%, and we're about 49.4%. Oh, it's actually higher. Apologies. The 6.5 may be incorrect of the originally approved. Not that matters, but you have a proposal. So we're a decrease in the amount of impervious. So as the engineer in charge, the civil engineer, we have to deal with the water quality at that point, because peak flows have already been mitigated through the reduction in impervious. So what we're doing is we have a couple of underground detention systems that are helping kind of mitigate the stormwater quality. So it's holding the water quality value. This is technically a redevelopment site. So per the stormwater quality manual guidelines, we're doing half the required water quality that you actually are required to do. And based on the actual design, we're actually doing more than that because of the configuration of the chambers. So it's a little over that volume. Incidentally, we just, by the nature of how we do things, we also integrate hydrodynamic separators prior to the underground detention systems. This allows for the water before it goes into the detention system to be cleaned and polished, and those particulates kind of diluted out and sink to the bottom of the sump in the hydrodynamic separator. We're along Berlin Road, which is a state road. So eventually what happens is our underground detention system has to discharge. This will go into the DOT system and then eventually make its way over to the nearby water body, which is to the east. As part of our charge, we're going through the OSTA process, and during the OSTA process we have to provide hydrology and hydraulic calculations and how we're going to be connecting to that particular system. So as part of that, we are going through every effort as part of that process with the drainage report that was also provided to the town. This has been reviewed by John Harriman and myself. We had a phone call. One of his comments was actually about the rain gardens that were part of the previously approved, and technically they were on this parcel as well during the proposed. But in conversations, we just think that there needs to be a little bit more watershed going to these areas. So as part of John's comments, he says as part of, if you were going to look favorably upon this application, he has no issues with taking it as a conditional approval for him and I to work out the locations before we submit Mylars. That way it gets a little bit more watershed and we're providing more LID, which is low impact development. So just to give everybody some context, everything we're sheeting, so sheeting meaning runoff, is going to catch basins, which are then collecting into the system that goes to the underground detention system, and then eventually goes to the DOT road, right away. That's kind of what we're doing in a nutshell. Higher level, we have custom fills associated with how this project is going to be operating. So under the earthwork volumes that we calculated, there's approximately 29,245 cubic yards of cut, 25,995 cubic yards of fill, for a net export of about 3,250 cubic yards. Not an insignificant value. You would kind of assume that every dump truck is about 18 cubic yards per dump truck. So you take that number and you divide by 18, that's how many trucks would be exporting. Which, when you think about the site, so the site itself just to give everybody some context, is 12.74 total acres that includes Christian Hill Road. That is a very large parcel when it comes to the grand scheme of things. So the fact that we're very close to coming to a balance on this site for the earthwork is actually, to me, pretty good. Jason Williams, great job. The fills could, or the net export could probably be lost on site either through different means and methods to figure out the different grades on site, so we may be able to close that gap. But as part of our application here tonight, we're looking to take out that material. As also part of that custom fills discussion, we also have, as Attorney Hope had mentioned, there is a section of floodplain that is at our entrance. Because of the nature of the existing entrance and how we want to reorientate the site, we actually slid the entrance to the east from what it is existing and then expanded it. In doing so, we had to play with the custom fill to essentially achieve a balance to make sure that we're not increasing the flood, I guess anybody downstream really. So what we did is based on the 100-year base flood elevation of 25.2, we did an analysis and came up that for the 210 cubic yards of material that we displaced, we were providing 210 additional cubic yards of storage to make sure that we're not impacting that downstream. Could be the next one goes into utilities. As also part of my charge, I'm a utility guy, so I call and kind of sort of coordinate with all the utility providers. One particular utility provider is obviously the Cromwell Fire District. So dealing with Joe Palmieri and the fire marshal are always fun. So we have essentially a central main that connects Christian Hill Road to Berlin Road from one end to the other. The existing service that ties the Red Line Hotel, based on our conversations, is just old. So we can't really use the existing infrastructure that's there. We have to tie directly to Berlin Road and have a new connection. So I don't know if you know too much about how that's kind of operating, but we're going to be going into a DOT road. It's got all sorts of permits, all sorts of fun. So that's going to be a blast. Additionally with that, we have a fire loop that's wrapping around the entire building that has a bunch of different hydrants that are located. That way we can make sure that we're providing adequate fire suppression throughout the entire development, and that way the fire marshal or the fire department can fight the fires from essentially every angle that we could possibly give them on site. There's also a sanitary sewer. So the sanitary sewer, as Attorney Hope mentioned, there's an existing sanitary sewer easement located on 16R Christian Hill Road. Going too fast for my own good. Where that one is actually independent of the main that goes essentially through our property. So on 100 Berlin Road, we actually, due to the nature of where the building's going to be located, we actually have to reconfigure how the sanitary system is going through. And we went to WPCA, and I worked with Dan Parisi, the sewer coordinator, on the location, the details, how the easement would be kind of extinguished and redone, and we've integrated those details into the plans. Again, that goes from Christian Hill Road all the way to Berlin, 100 Berlin Road. And if you were to look fondly upon this application, they would actually have to go through a DOT encroachment permit for all of these utility connections into 100 Berlin Road. And this particular one, we're sort of bypassing a portion of the existing connection because the flows just aren't there when it comes to the pitch of the pipe. So there's an existing pipe, we just need to make sure that it has adequate slope and adequate size to make sure we're getting everybody's stuff out. That's kind of it for utilities. Jumping over to set of erosion controls. So obviously we have a very large parcel, so we have to be very delicate with being very cognizant of the adjacent wetland bodies as well as the adjacent watercourse. So we have a kind of a two-step process. One particularly just for the demolition phase and one for the proposed phase. Under the demolition phase, what we're doing is we're creating essentially different watersheds that capture under a temporary sediment trap. So under the 2024 sediment erosion control guidelines for the state of Connecticut, based on the water flow that you're kind of collecting, where diverting that water to get into the temporary sediment traps, and then that water will settle out, and then there's a maintenance plan that says every time that you meet a certain amount of generated criteria, meaning generated fines, that just has to be cleaned, excavated, and taken out to a facility that would accept that material. Because we're doing a lot of earthwork on here, it's actually kind of tiered as you go from one end to the other. We're doing the most earthwork actually at the top, because what we have to do with the grading is, in order to maintain ADA access around the building, as well as making sure that we're not making the driveways too steep, we actually have to drive some of that grade down towards Christian Hill Road and put a retaining wall. So there's the most earthwork is actually at that end, and that's going to be captured for a stormwater perspective in those temporary sediment traps. We strategically kind of located where stockpiles will be located. All of this, obviously, as a contractor gets on board, it's going to evolve because things happen, nothing's perfect, as well as things are just sequenced very differently. So we obviously put together a plan based on the best management practices we know to date, and put that together. Under proposed conditions, if you go to the next slide, we essentially do the same thing. So we're maintaining sort of those temporary sediment traps as you go from one end to the other. At the point of this section, they should be essentially done with major earthwork functions. They should be working on rough grading. So the temporary sediment traps would essentially be mucked out, removed, and new ones installed at this point. There are two stockpiles along this edge that Attorney Hope is highlighting. That's primarily because that's the most area that's going to be having the most earthwork done. So we figure that would make the most sense to keep it on one end. Obviously, things need to move around, so there'll be an excavator. It's my, and I believe it's the owner's or the applicant's discretion, but they are looking to do this entirely in one phase. So making sure that the erosion controls, as we're kind of designing, are properly installed and properly mitigated. They have to go through the deep stormwater general permit because of the amount of disturbance there is on site. There's about a little over 8 acres of disturbance that they're going to be providing, and that will all get summed up through the state, through DEEP, and hopefully it's an easy review process, and they agree with our sediment erosion control plan. This sediment erosion control plan was also before in the wetlands, and I don't think they had many comments. There were some comments regarding some inlet protection and I believe the phasing of the project and how this is going to be done, which is why we kind of split it up into two demo phase and proposed phase. Next slide. Basically the same thing. The only thing on this one is we're just making sure that everybody's aware that there's going to be a construction entrance. A construction entrance, typical construction entrance, is a bunch of stone that'll lock into different sediment and mud that are on contractors' tires as they go in and out of the development. One comment that we received from Bruce is that they want a tire washing station. Obviously, we have no issues with that. That's pretty simple. And additionally, with that, there's dust control mitigation efforts as part of our maintenance interval plans. So as they're going through, depending upon how obviously the summer goes while they're doing some sort of construction, they're going to make sure that things are nice and tidy on site. That's nice. Thank you so much.
Good evening. I'm Mark Bertucci. I'm a senior transportation engineer at Foss & O'Neill. We're located at 1 Financial Plaza in Hartford. I am a registered professional engineer in Connecticut and a registered professional traffic operations engineer as well. Foss & O'Neill did prepare a traffic impact study for this development. I want to just go through our findings with you here this evening. Again, on your screen here is the study area. Just wanted to orient you to the site briefly. So Route 372, Berlin Road, running east-west there across the bottom of the screen. I-91 running north-south off the left side there. So you can see the site right next to the interchange really provides excellent access onto and off of the highway with a close proximity. Our driveway is going
going to be in the existing location as it has historically been. The hotel was in operation about 400 feet east of those 91 northbound ramps. We are proposing to have 2 lanes coming out of that driveway, so a left and a right turn. I'll talk more about that in a bit. The intersections we did review for impact in this study are the green circles on the screen. We looked at the 91 southbound ramps with Industrial Park Road and Seventh Drive. Those 2 intersections are clustered in the same signal. The I-91 northbound ramp signal we looked at. Site driveway, obviously, the Lowe's signal to the east, and then also the East Street and Coles Road signal with 372. So as part of our study, next slide, we did conduct turning movement traffic counts at each of those study intersections. We collected data back in October during a typical Saturday and also a weekday on a Tuesday. Those counts did reveal the peak hours were 7:30 to 8:30 in the morning on the weekday, 4:30 to 5:30 in the weekday afternoon, and 12 to 1 on a midday Saturday. So those highest hours of the week were the hours we subsequently analyzed for impact. We did then grow those counts to an assumed 2028 build year, and we used a 0.7% per year growth factor that was provided by the DOT. As far as what we expect the site to generate for traffic, we did utilize rates provided in the Institute of Transportation Engineers Trip Generation Manual. This is an industry-accepted resource for determining traffic generation. We did calculate rates for each of the proposed uses on the site, so the 267 apartment units, and as far as the 10,000 square feet of commercial, we were conservative in our assumptions for what would be provided there. We assumed a mix of coffee shop, high turnover sit-down restaurant, general retail, and medical office use. So these are all higher generating uses. We wanted to be conservative with what might go there. So a couple of factors with this site I wanted to point out that will serve to reduce the overall traffic versus what we might expect otherwise. One is there is a transit route that runs in front of this site. So we were able to take a 10% credit based on what the DOT provided us for weekday transit use. There's a bus stop adjacent to the site. We are providing new sidewalk along the site frontage to the crossing that exists in the 91 ramp intersection, and then of course we're also adding a small sidewalk on the other side to get to the bus stop. So that will hopefully encourage some transit use. Also, in multi-use developments like this, we typically see a lot of internally captured traffic. What that means is some of the residents might want to go to the coffee shop. They're not going to get in their car. They're just going to walk to the coffee shop or the retail use. There's going to be some sharing of use on site, so you're not going to have each particular use generating the full traffic amount. So we took a 10% capture credit for that. Also, that was approved by DOT. And lastly, there's going to be some pass-by traffic here. Coffee shop use really relies heavily on pass-by traffic. People are already on their way to work. They may pull in, stop and get a coffee, pull out. That's not a new trip. That car is already on the road network. So we took a 20% credit for the pass-by for the coffee shop use, which is actually quite conservative because pass-by rates for a Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts are much higher than 20%. Also wanted to note, again, we talked about the hotel, but obviously the site generated traffic in the past when it was the Red Lion and the Ramada before that. So it was generating traffic, which you can see up there, up to 100 trips in the peak hours. So when you factor that in, not all of this traffic is new. It was there in the past. This hotel, as well as Meg had mentioned, could accommodate up to 1,100 people in banquets and conferences. And when those occurred, there was a huge spike in traffic entering and exiting this property. We're not going to be seeing any sort of rates even close to what those types of events generated at the hotel in the past. Next slide. So what we did, we did a capacity analysis at each of our study intersections, and we took our 2028 background volumes, we added the site-generated traffic we just talked about, and we obtained our 2028 build or combined conditions. So we did an analysis at each intersection for both the background and the combined, compared them to determine impacts. When we do a capacity analysis, as you may know, we rate these intersections based on a level of service scale, so a report card type scale of A to F. A is a condition of low delay, efficient traffic operations. When you get to F, you're dealing with higher delays and congestion and more driver frustration. What we found is the intersections of the I-91 northbound ramps and the Lowe's driveway, those are operating pretty efficiently, anywhere between level of service A and C, depending on the time of day. The intersections of the 91 southbound ramp, Industrial Park Road and 7th Drive, and also the Coles Road intersection, those are operating with a bit more delay, anywhere from level of service C to level of service E, again, depending on the peak hour. So what we are proposing is some signal timing modifications at those two intersections. They're denoted by the red circles, basically proposing to reallocate some of the green time to some of the more congested movements, the left turn movements at Coles Road and the off-ramp, to Berlin Road at the 91 southbound off-ramp. And that will help those intersections operate more efficiently. With those timing modifications, they actually operate as well or better than they do in the existing conditions, independent of this development traffic. We are also proposing improvements at the site driveway intersection itself, and you can go ahead to the next slide, Rock, so we can see this up close in a little bit more detail. But what we are proposing, again, is the two lanes coming out of the site, a left turn and a right turn lane. We're also proposing to restripe Berlin Road for an eastbound left turn lane into the site. It's about a 100-foot left turn lane there. In order to do that, we're doing a little bit of work on the north side of the road, and we're slightly shortening the right turn lane onto the 91 northbound ramp in the westbound direction. That ramp still has ample queuing capacity for that turning movement. And we are also proposing to install a traffic signal here at this intersection as well. We did do a warrant analysis based on MUTCD criteria, which is the manual uniform traffic control devices, and the volume warrants were satisfied for a traffic signal at the intersection. So what these improvements do is, again, they remove the safety concern. We had about a vehicle attempting to turn left in and particularly left out onto this busy 4-lane roadway. Also, with the left turn lane into the site, we're ensuring any vehicle waiting to turn in is not going to be blocking eastbound through traffic on Berlin Road. If that lane wasn't there, they'd be in the left travel lane trying to turn in, and there'd be a rear-end collision risk. So that's a safer operation as well. Moving to the next slide, I just want to talk a second about on-site queuing. So our analysis does show a maximum queue for vehicles exiting the site of about 95 feet with a traffic signal or 4 car lengths. That's the view on the right there that you're seeing. So it gets back to around the vicinity of that first cross aisle there, and then every time the signal turns green, that queue flushes out. The previous plan, a couple of years ago, we had a queue of 175 feet or 7 cars that was backing here is an improvement over that condition. Talking about traffic safety here for a minute, we did conduct an intersection site distance analysis, and for the speeds on the road, the measurements we made looking both left and right, which you see in our view there, are sufficient. They exceed DOT Highway Design Manual criteria for safe egress. You can see well past the Lowe's signal to the east and past the 91 ramp signal to the west. We also reviewed the latest 3 years of available crash data in the Yukon crash repository. We did find crash frequencies that we did not consider abnormal for a signalized commercial arterial road such as this. We do not expect development traffic will exacerbate the existing crash patterns that exist within the study area. There were, of note, a few fatalities out here, as I'm sure you're aware. A couple turning out of commercial driveways to the east of the site. There was also a pedestrian who was struck, although that pedestrian was under the influence. But this is one of the reasons we are proposing the improvements that we are here that I just described. The new sidewalks along the road to the crosswalk to get those pedestrians out of the shoulder, and the traffic signal to improve, and the turn lane to improve the safety of vehicles turning left in and left out of the site so that we don't have a similar unsafe condition occurring at the driveway to this development. Next slide, I just want to talk about our state approvals. Should this get approved here at the local level, we do have to go through and get approval from the Office of the State Traffic Administration. We have already submitted to them a major traffic generator certificate application. The step 1 of that application was a traffic volume submittal. They've already reviewed our volumes and approved them as of February 24th. They're now currently reviewing our step 2 application, which is basically our offsite improvement plans that I just described, and all of our analysis and our traffic study, the site plans, the drainage that Rock mentioned. We are expecting comments from them either later this month or early April, and we have a meeting scheduled with them on April 10th to review their comments. So again, these roads, 372 is under state jurisdiction, so it will be subject to their final review and comment. Once we get through step 2, step 3 is basically the final application, final submittal in that process. We hope to be through that by June at this point. Following those to approval, we would need an encroachment permit as well from the DOT District 1 office in Rocky Hill, and that basically what the district will be looking at is the design details of our drawings. So the striping in the road, the traffic signal design, the driveway curb cut, drainage, and all those details. That would probably be about a 6 to 8 month process following DOT approval. Lastly, I want to talk a minute about on-site parking. We did complete a shared parking study based on time of day factors provided in the ITE parking generation manual. This manual is an industry accepted resource for determining parking generation. And basically, the idea behind the shared parking study is that mixed-use developments such as this have complementary uses. So the residences, they're going to be parked near 100% overnight, late night, early morning, overnight. Some of these other uses on the site that we're talking about, retail, medical office, coffee shop, they're going to peak at different times during the day. They're not peaking at the same time. They're complementary uses, so we don't need to go determine what, by your zoning regs, what every use requires. In a silo, we want to look at them holistically so that we can not build too much parking on the site and overpark it. So for the commercial parking, we're basically providing exactly what your zoning regulations require. Again, we assumed restaurant, coffee shop, retail, and medical office. They were very conservative, choosing higher parking generating uses. For the residential portion, we are providing 1.8 spaces per unit. This is slightly below your recently updated regulation of 2 per unit, but it is a pretty sizable increase from the 1.5 per unit we provided in the last application that was approved. I also want to note it's substantially higher than the average parking demand rate for apartments in the ITE manual. Their average demand rate's only 1.23 per unit, so we're well above that as well. So when you look at the shared parking, we're providing 23% spaces of shared parking based on our study, which is less than the 25% reduction that is allowed. Sorry, it's a 23% reduction, which is less than the 25% your zoning regs allow. So this chart here basically shows each color is a different use on the site. The cumulative parking demand throughout a weekend day. And as you can see here, that dash line on the top, that's the 503 parking spaces that are provided, we're proposing to provide on the site. And we're under that 503 throughout the entire weekday. The maximum demand for parking for the entire week is that 8 a.m. period on a weekend morning. And the reason that's your peak is because your residential is near its peak. Most people are still home at that time, and then you've got your coffee shop use, which is peaking at the same time. So at that peak moment at 8 a.m. At weekend, we're at about 499 with our demand. We're providing 503 spaces, so we're still under that. The rest of the day, we're 450 or less with the demand, so we're substantially below the parking capacity. And the weekday as well, I think we max out around 450 spaces for our peak demand on a weekday, which is also substantially lower than what we are providing. So we're confident this site does provide ample parking to support the demand for the development. With that, I am going to turn this over now to Seinfeld for the architecture.
Thank you, Commission. Todd Groth here, Senior Associate, Seinfeld Architecture. I've been with the firm about 20 years. It's a pleasure to be working with this team. We've worked with many of them before to bring this project forward to you. The site is an amazing location and opportunity to turn this parcel to a well-functional part of the community. Purely by coincidence, I have a personal connection to the site. I'm a Cromwell native, and as a proud Panther and Cromwell High School graduate in '95, this is my first job out in high school. So I did banquet setup and in the PM hours, and I would say, judging by the current conditions, the events that generated the 1,100 people are concluded. Moving on, addressing one of the comments earlier about building height. Jason's a wonderful guy. I would ask that you give him a little bit of leniency on the typo that may have existed on his landscape drawings, and likewise I would request that you give me a little bit of leniency if we might mistakenly identify a sugar maple for a Japanese maple. They're both trees, but a little bit different in size. So that being said, moving on to the main event, we've got the site. I've always heard it's location, location, location. It's an excellent location. Cromwell, Crossroads, Connecticut. If you're a cartography geek, you might argue that it's the center of the state, but we've got excellent proximity. You've got the Interstate 91 right up on the west side of the site, the Berlin Road to the south for good access to points west and points east in Cromwell and downtown Cromwell. And you've got Route 9 just to the north and also the east, as well as the Merritt Parkway, Wilbur Cross, also further to the west. So very convenient to town and regional amenities. So great site. Go to the existing conditions, Ron. So the long dormant site, it's a very verdant, but not in a good way. So the upper left gives you the entry to the site, very similar to the location we're proposing the current entry. Moving to the right, you're looking kind of a little bit further to the northwest. You're seeing what used to be the existing hotel and the existing, Sheffield's at that point. And then the upper right slide is a view kind of interior to the site from Christian Hill, more or less at the upper level parking deck. It's not really a deck, it's kind of split half on grade, half parking tier, but you're looking back at the hotel down, and you really get a sense of the grade discrepancy of the site, right? Megan had mentioned that earlier on. It's one of the very interesting things about the site, and one of the architectural challenges that I think we've all addressed very, very handsomely in the new proposal. The lower left gives you a view between and kind of the interstitial space between the existing hotel and the upland parking garage. And again, this is like, it's a little bit of a valley, but it's swooping up towards the 91 if you're familiar with the site and you've been back there. And then you've got a view of the cellular tower that's, I believe, on the northwest corner of the site. We saw that was 95 feet, I believe it was, so that's above that 40-foot grade increase. And then we're looking at the last three slides there in the lower right, looking kind of the breezeway or the passage or the traffic circulation that was formerly accessing either those more or less ungraded guest rooms or providing fire access around the hotel there. So you get a good sense of the existing conditions and kind of see what it is. So our proposal, as was shown earlier, it's a big concept. It was a good collaboration between SLR, Jason, and Rock and ourselves. Embrace the underlying site and respond to the underlying topography, right? And we wanted to create different plateaus and use those to define the different parts of the site. So we've got kind of the retail level, we've got a residential level, this amenity level, which is a lake building between the two larger residential structures, and then you've got an upland portion of the site that's the one residential building, and then a bit of a break, natural break as the development kind of ceases, and you get a little bit more of a parking field, but it's a little bit more granular than that, a little bit more contextual. We feel like we did a really good job being measured with that response. Another goal was to provide a very measured and intentional reveal of the site. So as you enter the site from the Berlin Road and come by the retail building, you get this interplay and this adapted contextual nature that allows some variety and visual texture as you enter the site along the eastern edge, and then proceed up to where the resident amenity building is. So you've got this constant juxtaposition between open spaces and built spaces. So that was a really important thing to us to provide these pocket parks. And what was the forest term you used? Miyawaki forest. I've heard those in several presentations so far. This is the first time I've heard Jason using it, but it's like a microforest, right? That's the term. So it seems like a good thing that's going on in terms of landscape management, providing these areas of respite in between the buildings, right? And like really breaking them up, pulling them apart, allowing them to breathe. And we feel this is like a really strong point of this scheme over the previous one, where it's not just a long facade. We're taking this primary entry and we're celebrating it a bit more, really focusing a little bit more on the pedestrian realm, and even the vehicle experience, right? You've got like a very clear sense of entry, clear point that's defined by the jewel box that's in the middle. That's kind of, the heart of the building there. So that's high level, the aerial proposal. Can we go to the next slide? Looking at it from Berlin Road, we've got the entry with the lush plantings and buffers. You've got the retail building in the foreground, very native plantings, as Jason mentioned. Buffering what could be the restaurant outdoor space there and plaza, and it's really providing a nice buffer between the Berlin Road and the busy hubbub there and the retail activity and the residential building. So we've set that back, and we've really we've buffered it with the retail use. It's back further than the previous proposal, and does a nice job just setting the scene as you drive in, giving you this vista, and then as you go in, you get these slow reveals, right? It gives a little bit more the further you go in. So we find that very engaging and interesting. You can also see kind of how the site slopes up. Sorry, that's fine. I'll move on. So going into the jewel box, this is a little bit more detailed of composition. It's got a little bit more whimsy. It's a folly to the two larger buildings, so this curated little detailed building with some sweeping roof lines and some more detailed brackets just provide that contextual cues that we all look for when we arrive somewhere. If we're a resident looking for a new place to live, or if we're a guest, you've got a clear sense of arrival. It's got the drive-through loop. You can pick somebody up, with an Uber, or you can hail it there. These short-term standing, and then new residents can park right up front, and they've got a clear signal as to where they go. Right. The welcoming heart of the residential portion of the project, as I said. So we can go on to the site plan now, Rob. I'm not going to dwell too much on this one. This is the retail level, so it kind of shows the first plateau. If we're on the road side of things, the one thing I will say that's kind of nice is that we don't have a big open parking field. We do have some rows of parking, but they're treated a little bit more like residential streets, in that we've taken care to address the pedestrian connectivity with the sidewalks, and also the landscaping. So you've got the parking rows are interspersed with trees, so they're planted. It's a little bit lusher. There's some dwelling units that front on the secondary one, so you've got eyes on the street. It's a little bit more public of space. It's not buried behind the building, so there's some attention being paid there, and will hopefully be kept up as a response to that. Everybody's already mentioned the units, but 267 units. Both buildings, approximately 120,000 square feet each, give or take. Retail buildings 10,000. The fuel box amenities about 4,200. And we can move on to the next slide. The main event, the main residential level. We're really seeing the roof of the retail building. We're seeing the main residential levels with a little bit of the amenity that connects to the fuel box. And if you're a resident or a new resident and you're coming in for the first time, you enter the amenity building and you get a really, really good representation. It puts its best foot forward, right? You walk in the door, you're greeted by the leasing people. You can see this wonderful courtyard that Jason's created beyond, with the swimming pool and the plantings, and the amenity spaces for each building, each individual building, are flanking that courtyard as well, providing some activity around that central hub. It's really seen as a gathering place and kind of the heart, right, of the community there. The other thing we do that's nice is we tend to put the mail and the package rooms in the amenity space, and the main amenity building that is, and that encourages the residents to congregate at that location, right? Gives you a reason to go there, and that helps foster connections between residents and connections to the community. So that's usually a nice thing that we do to kind of make sure that those spaces get used and that they're activated throughout the year and throughout the day. You can really see how the wings of the building come down to the parking, and that is addressed through the topography, which we'll see in the elevations later. But those recessed courtyards are terraced and really lushly planted, so providing a very nice passive recreation area for the residents. And one of the things that I'll point out finally on this one, what appears to be the large parking field at the top, when you get down into the details, we've done a lot to mitigate that. As I said at the beginning, working with the existing site topography was one of the goals. So since we had to deal with that, there's a lot of opportunity to kind of terrace the parking. So this isn't one continuous plane, it's many planes, right? So you're breaking up that large parking field into discrete drive aisles, and you're creating much more of a sense of procession back to the building. So even if you're a resident and you have a park space that's far out in the field there, you still get a sense of entry, right? You're walking down, you've got a procession to get to the building. We also have points of entry that are circulated throughout the building. So you've got some facing that northerly parking, you've got some facing I-91. So there's points of entry throughout the building as you rotate around the site. So that's providing access for various activities. I think the next slide is trash, right? So looking at the utilities in the back of house spaces, we tried to locate everything towards the I-91 side of things, right? That was really our back of the house. We saw that as the buffer, and we wanted why waste this great composition that we're working so hard to create and curate on the eastern facade with utility rooms and trash pickup, right? So we tried to put that to where, you know, it's really just gonna be a highway that's complaining, and create those touch points where the utilities enter and the trash gets picked up and people move in, and have those activities happen adjacent to the highway where it's gonna be less of a nuisance. Next slide. Not much to say here. It's a typical residential floor plate. You may or may not have seen these before. It's a double loaded corridor. It's going to be well appointed. It's going to be well lit. It's going to have elevators. It's going to be some elements of design in there. Very standard for the project. Next slide. Same thing with a little bit of a twist. We've got terraces at the top floor. So we've got a little bit of outdoor space for these units that are up at the top level. Building facade is pulled back, helps reduce the massing at the street level and at the outside of the building. And the top floor units get a little bit more exterior space that's private. You can put a sun chair out there and enjoy your unit and your view of the Bath River. There we go. Talked about the comparative site section. The blue boxes represent the previous proposal. You can see the townhouses on the right. If you're paying attention, I'll reiterate, is that Christian Hill all the way to the left on the top section, Berlin Road all the way down to the right. You can really get a good sense of the grade differential there and see how we've kind of stepped things up. And you can also see the terrace parking and how that steps down. You can see from the detail in the lower left that the sight line from Christian Hill is going to largely be obscured by landscaping. And we're also using that existing topography and where we're siting the buildings to kind of naturally depress the buildings down below what's the typical view line. So even in the winter when the trees are bare, you're still going to have a lot of visual noise from the heavier growth trees, and it's most likely going to be fairly obscure. And also further away than the previous proposal. We're also further away on the Berlin Road side with both the retail building and the residential building by a fair margin. Go to the next one. Building section, there was just some discussion about the roof condensers. We have shown them in the section. Typically they're located more towards the interior of the building for several reasons. It's more efficient to run them that way. It's also less of a noise consideration. Usually the bedrooms and the living spaces are towards the outside where the windows are. This is located more over the circulation corridor and the back of house spaces like the kitchen or the bathroom where you're going to be running a bath fan. You're going to be cooking. There's going to be general noise there. People passing in the hallway. There'll be acoustically treated buildings to minimize that. But you put the noise where the noise is going to be generated, and that way you don't notice it. Where in the quiet spaces like the living area that's out closer to the window. We can move on from that. Talking about the material palette, we've been working in multifamily for many years, and longer than I've been with the firm, so well over 20 years. Over that time, we've honed our materiality with the multifamily projects that we've done, and we've selected various samples for this from that portfolio. Fiber cement lab siding is a primary material. We've got some metal paneling, brick, architectural metal with a wood look, and terracotta panels. Residential buildings, you can see the one on the right and on the left. Those have corner elements that are brick that provide substantiality at the corners. It helps resolve them with a timeless material that's very familiar to everybody. However, we did differentiate these corners that you can see there a little bit at the outside corners with a little bit of a reveal where we treated those a little bit more glassy and have a metal reveal. So pulled back, let it have a little bit more variety, a little bit more playful nature to it, and kind of a pleasant surprise on the corner there. Lets a little bit more light into the units, gives them better outside views. So we felt that was a nice move in certain corners. The soffits of the roof overhang, that's item number 4 there, if you're following along. That's where we're looking at that metallic wood cladding. So
Oh, that one
it's
there?
like, we don't have a sample of that.
I do.
Oh, you do, okay.
Yeah, is that the one there?
Yeah,
No, wood.
the other one is something like that.
That one.
So,
That one.
And what is that? Is that going to be,
that's gonna be in the soffit underneath the
In the
extended
soffit,
roof.
underneath
Roof
it?
overhangs, yeah. So just to give some texture up there, you know, it's like you want a material like that that's relatively low
and
maintenance.
what is the other piece of steel there, that dark one?
That would be the metal cladding, so you're gonna see that like at the corner, where the glass is, it's a little bit heavier on the glass, and then also in the jewel box building in the retail. So that's gonna be, excuse me, your contrasting expression. Yeah, number 2. So those open corners, with the glass.
Oh, okay. And then the brick is,
And the brick is kind of anchoring the corners, right? So that's our resolution, for the
but
corner.
they're not
elements
full
of the
brick,
window.
right?
It's either gonna be
Thin brick.
thin brick, yeah, so it'll be thin brick.
Real
So
brick.
It's a real brick, but it's sliced or manufactured in a thinner, veneer, so it's a lot lighter. and a lot more,
Yeah, no, but it's a veneer, it's not a real brick.
It is I mean, yes, it's
Not a full
it's a real
It's
material.
not a full,
Not a
my,
full brick. Not a full size.
full size.
Not a full size.
Right.
Yeah, my husband was a bricklayer stonemason.
Okay. Understood.
But it's really made out of brick so that you don't have to put
Correct.
something over it.
Correct.
So that the water doesn't go through it, right?
It's
Okay.
yes, it's a system, they, various methods of installing it, but
Mm-hmm.
it's a real masonry product, it's
Right.
not a stick.
Okay.
The stair towers are another element that we were, accentuating these, so, a lot of times that just kind of gets left behind, not treated well, so we're proposing that this becomes part of the composition, with the terracotta, cladding, and then, the main field of the building is where we're using fiber cement material, and that's a lap siding product, very similar to a traditional clapboard, but, in buildings of this scale, it doesn't make sense to do the wood, or it's not permitted by code, so the fiber cement is, not combustible, and, comes pre-finished, so you get good weathering out of it, and maintain color for a longer period of time than paint.
Now, are there any, what I call porches on this building at all?
We do have recessed porches, and I think you can see those. Rob,
I couldn't see, I could just
can
see
you go
some,
back
I
to
think,
the
on the
first,
side.
rendering?
Here's
That one.
Berlin Road?
Yeah, Berlin Road, yeah, that one. So you can see we have recessed balconies at Berlin Road, the roof terraces, and then I believe do we have interior balconies?
Hung balconies.
We have hung balconies on
Oh,
those.
okay,
The
hung
courthouse,
balcony.
So I think if you go to the aerial, you probably see it.
The aerial, yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So
I was just
if you
interested
can
to know
zoom
whether or
in,
not
you might be able to see.
there's any place
Yeah.
that people that are in these apartments can go out and,
Almost all of them have hung balconies.
Yeah.
oh, okay, thank you.
You can see them there.
And then there are the right, I mean, I know it's not like a private space, but you do get these wonderful courtyards with these pockets that Jason
Yeah.
and his team have designed to create these, intimate spaces outside, and he usually does a very good job with our projects of, providing, intimate spaces and slightly more public spaces, and also, slightly larger gathering spaces, so you can be like 1 or 2 people, you can be 4 or 5, or you can, have a few more, so, you've got the passive courtyards in between, the 2 building wings on both buildings, and then you've got the more active, recreation courtyard in the back of the jewel box where the pool is, and then amenity spaces with the fitness rooms like face out onto there, and other programs a little bit more active, so.
And thank you for bringing the samples
Oh, you're welcome.
so that we
Not a
could
problem.
see them.
So that really concludes the architectural portion of the presentation. It's like I'm very grateful that I get to give it to you, growing up in town and being part of the community. And next to Heather here, the managing principal, who was kind enough to give me the time. I usually do our presentations down in our neck of the woods in Stamford and Norwalk and Westport. So it's a pleasure to be up here in this part of the state again. So thank you.
You're welcome.
We're rounding third base. It's right there. Again, Jason Williams, Solar Consulting. So we did a balloon fly analysis from Christian Hill Road. Here you can see the existing view that we used. This is actually not us standing on Christian Hill Road. We walked in about 30 feet. We took a picture from Christian Hill Road and you really won't be able to see anything, so we were like, let's get into the site a little bit. In orange, you can see the balloons that are located at the corners of the proposed buildings and at those building heights. So next slide, we developed a rendering showing exactly where that building would be and the terraced landscaping that would be in the foreground. Next, we went down Christian Hill Road, stood at the intersection of North Road and Christian Hill Road, and looked towards the property. You can see there's one orange balloon, which would be the corner of a building, and we did a rendering that identifies what you would see from the intersection of Penn Road and Christian Hill Road. You can see the building in the background. We then decided to make a right-hand turn and move our way up Christian Hill Road. And here, starting on the left, number one, you can see stopping just after making that right-hand turn, looking at 17 Christian Hill Road towards our property. We can't see any balloons. We then moved up Christian Hill again, looking at the entrance of 17 Christian Hill Road. We can't see any of the balloons in there. And then further up, just past, on the right-hand side of 17 Christian Hill Road, again, we cannot see any of the balloons. Further up Christian Hill Road, from our emergency access drive, all the way up, there's existing vegetation, which is to remain. We're not touching that. So any vehicle, pedestrian is not going to be able to obviously see through that, but on top of that, on the left side of that image, is where we're coming in with the white pines, the eastern red cedars, the quaking aspens, so we've got kind of a double buffer in that area.
Again, for the record, Megan Hope with Alter Pearson and Hope. What I wanted to do in concluding the presentation is to give the commission a sense of what we would do moving forward should we get an approval tonight. As we did with the previous application, we would need to go to the town council and have the approved tax abatement agreement assigned to our clients, who would be the contract purchasers of the site. Parallel to that, we would be working on our utility disconnects, which is something that's required before you demolish a building. And as Mark mentioned, he would be continuing the process with OSA, working on getting through that step 2 process. So we're thinking that both of those items can be completed in May. Then we would be in a position to begin to demolish the building. We think that would take several months from June to October. By then, we also would have completed the OSA Step 3 process, probably in early July. So we would be done with OSA at that point. We do need to have that OSA process complete and have that certificate recorded on the land records before we can pull a building permit. So we can do the demolition and some of the site work, but when we go to start and pull foundation permit, OSA has to be done with that process. So we think probably in the summer we'd be able to submit and pull the building permits. From then, obviously, site work would be first with our excavation. As we mentioned, there's quite a bit of earthwork that has to be completed on the site. And then we would obviously get into construction, which we think would take basically from March of 2027 to September of 2028. But we would obviously start with foundations, vertical construction, the building envelope, and then move into the interiors, and then finish with the landscaping and hardscaping and all those amenity areas that Jason explained. But we'd anticipate with this schedule, the COs and the grand opening would be in September of 2028. But the clients have been very committed to this application. It's not typical for clients to be going through the OSTA process before we've gotten zoning approval, but we're very mindful of the fact that this building has been sitting here and everyone wants it demolished. So we're trying to run some of these things that we'll need to do in order to move this project forward in parallel to each other. So I did just want to point that out for the record. That's not always something that an applicant does. Sometimes they want that permanent hand before they move on to the next step. So we're taking a little bit of risk, but we feel like it's appropriate for this site and for Cromwell. If you go to the next slide, please, Rock. One thing I sort of touched on earlier in the presentation, but I wanted to highlight again. I obviously worked with Lexington when they did the previous proposal in 2022 and had the pleasure of working with Alpine in this proposal. One thing that really stuck out to me from an architectural standpoint was what I had mentioned earlier with the previous proposal having that parking on the first level. And so Colin had put this slide together, and I felt like it was very impactful and really captured why I felt the architecture of this plan is very well done, and I think it'll be a huge asset for the town. If you look at that top picture, that's the previous elevation if you're looking almost from the wetlands towards the building, but if you see that bottom level, that's where all that underground parking was. So if you remember, we had screening because you had to have ventilation into the parking area, but from a pedestrian experience or even a vehicular experience, marching up the site, that was one of your main visions. If you remember, we had the sort of raised courtyards. Again, something for the residents, if you're up on those levels, you got to experience, but it wasn't engaged with the site plan itself. So I think when you sort of pull back and look at that the previously approved on the top and our proposal, and then the rendering at the bottom, I think you can see how advantageous it was to eliminate some of that, or all of the covered parking and really engage the building into the landscape. I think these courtyards are superior to the last proposal. I think a lot of it has to do with them not being on top of parking garages and instead being engaged into the site. You can go to the next slide, Rock. So just to sum up my remarks, as our application materials show, we meet all the requirements of the MU zone. We've submitted the required impact statements that are required for all special permits. This site was specifically called out in the POCD for mixed-use zone, where obviously it was previously approved, and we're continuing that with the site. We think this site and the way we've laid it out is very suitable for this exact location in Cromwell. We've focused that commercial on Berlin Road, on that commercial corridor, and pushed the residential more towards the center portion of the site. We've got excellent landscaping with this site and buffering. Hopefully you all have a better sense of the sort of massings of the building with the different cross sections we're able to provide. But we feel like what we presented is a plan that really bridges that commercial part of the site with the residential neighborhoods to the north. So we're happy to answer any questions from the public or from the commission. So now I'll turn it back over to you.
At this time, commissioners, I'm going to ask that we delay us having anything to say and let the public come forward, because they've been sitting here listening all this time. So with the public, anyone that wishes to speak on this, please come forward, write your name on the sheet of paper that's on the podium. Does anybody wish to come? Okay. And just state your name, but write it down also for our clerk.
Okay.
Are you okay with?
It's fine.
Oh, okay.
Good evening, Ralph Correa, 5 Christian Hill Road. Lived in Cromwell since 2016. My wife and I both live at 5 Christian Hill. Our property abuts where the Fort Bay garage that's by the stream. So I guess a question I had was the balloon study. Will we see anything from our house? Will we see the lights? Is this pointing towards the wetlands from our house? I realized the lighting was soft, and that was good. The 3000 scale is much better than the bright white LEDs, but what of that will we see? The balloon study from in front of 17, it's all well and good from the road, but nonetheless, that guy's looking at that thing in his backyard. It's big. And that trail, your stone path, pretty much encourages people to walk pretty much into our backyards. My comments are based on 15 years' experience managing a 400-unit property in Rocky Hill. I live this every single day. The people, the cars, the emergency services calls, the fire calls, the false alarms, all of it. That little Christian Hill Road with the people who are going to walk and run and push their strollers, and the people who are going to walk up and down that road, it's 6 gallons in a 5-gallon pail. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I know money's part of it. It's all got to work out financially for everyone. But as somebody whose backyard is there and has enjoyed the last 10 years sort of as is, like most of our neighbors, I assume, it concerns me. And it's as simple as that. You know, we bring 400 cars in there. Most people have 2 cars these days. It's the only way you can have 2 people in those apartments. It's the only way you can afford the rent. So it's just going to generate a lot more than that little neighborhood has ever seen. And those are my concerns, just based on 15 years experience living this every single day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else wishes to come to speak?
Sitting too long. Patricia Dickinson, 31 Coles Road. Myself too, I'd like to know on the walking path, when it comes down, is it going to go up the pipeline, sewer line? What safety do we have with the kids wanting to come to the brook? The brook goes through their yard, our yard, and almost to Lowell's. It goes on, it was Goodrich's property. My husband's been out there over 80 years. Not so, but over 60 years, more. So, my horses always went there, so I know there are wetlands up closer to the hotel, but I see they're marked. When they have their parking, we weren't mentioned at all. I don't think they think we exist on Coles Road, but we abut that straight on. When the cops used to go in there all the time and park, you know, when it was empty, the lights every night would shine in our windows. Sometimes I got to know them, they'd shut them down. But they have all those cars there. They're putting up a little tiny fence along there, but nothing to block the lights. Through the woods, you can see lights. And with the lights that are so bright today, they should have, you know, they could do something for us because they're going to glare right to us. I mean, we live right along the square, both of us, and you can see everything. I mean, where the walking path is clear. You can see them mow every year when they mow there. So there's no fencing. The only thing that's left is some of our barbed wire because the horses were there. We used to let them go up there. But now, you know, they can come. And they use our driveway when the hotel was open to cut through. People walked, come through our yard. Where are you going? Oh, we're going to the hotel. No, you're not. Out. So, I mean, it is a nuisance because they don't care. People just come through. So, I don't know, you know, they've got to do something to keep their people off of our property. So I wonder, how are they going to, you know, keep their people on their own side? Well, we'll have to put up signs again, even if they have signs. The lighting, a couple of times we went up because they switched the lights when it was the lion. I went over and asked them, please, because they don't realize we're dead on. You didn't see. You don't think so. At the level, we can see, you know, my whole back house. And they lowered them, but they would shine them. They don't fold. It's the woods. But there's people on the other side of those woods. So if they could lower them, fine. The middle school, their lighting is really good. The new school is, right? Their lighting is dull, you know, not so aggressive. Lowell's, they were good at first, and then they go and change their lights. Right, I would come up to my kitchen one night, oh my God, I couldn't see. I went over, I talked to them, and, you know, at least they're good neighbors, I have to say. And they made sure that they went down. They shouldn't, so I don't know what they're gonna do if they're, you know, do sign out, they're gonna shine. You know, they don't realize that. And another thing is the you know, when they turn left, but I see now that they're gonna try to get it licensed or put in there. But, when you're going down 72 and you look, Lowell's light and the light that's for the highway, they're almost connected. And we've seen people go right through because they're looking at the next light. So now you're gonna have another light. I know a couple of accidents at Lowell's, and they, you know, because I know the people there too, and they said, that's when you see, you realize, they think that light there is green, and it's red for both. So, and why did the state come in and, they put the counters on the roads years ago, to count how many cars were going by to the hotels? Why aren't they counting, you know, why hasn't the state come out? Since, they have, all the buildings now, Westlake, I mean, it's unbelievable how much traffic comes out of there every day. And they don't care. And another thing, because of our GPSs now, our phones, 91 shut down. Where does the GPS send them? Coles Road. We have traffic backed up past our house from 72, many times. You know how many accidents are on 91. The other day, we had the accident, they had to shut down 372. Where they come up our way, come down our driveway, they go down Christian Hill. You know, they think there's an exit. So how are we gonna, you know, there's gonna be so much traffic. But that's, you know, but it is a nice design for looking. And another thing, why is there 6 floors on the first building? If you count, there's 6 floors. And then they go to, yes, 6, and then they go to 5. Why is there 6 on the first building?
Thank you.
Okay.
Anybody else would like to come?
Hi, my name is Eugenia Falco, and I live at 20 Christian Hill Road. I'm exactly right behind the building. I mean, I can even be more behind the building if I wanted to. So I wish the bubble, the little orange bubble, was in my front yard. It would have helped. But, you know, I like the design. I like this design much better than the old one, because the old one was just, to me, was just the pit. I wish, though, that we only have 4 floors and not 5 floors. The height of that building is going to impact the entire neighborhood, and that's what I'm concerned with. And that's why I wanted the cross-section, because when you look at the cross-section, that person that's looking over, that's me, looking over trees. But I'll tell you, right now, I can see the roof of the hotel, and it's not as tall as that building's going to be. And I see the roof now. So tell me I'm not going to see that building in the winter time. I'll see it. And yeah, you know, like I said, I know you guys did a really good job with design. I really like this one better. Another thing that I can get concerned about is maintenance. You know, is there somebody going to be within the area that we can call and say, hey, you know, is this property being taken care of? Anyways, that's all I got. Thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else would like to speak?
David Putnam. I'm on 24 Christian Hill Road. I'd like to know why these people don't take care of the property. I've been living up there, and across the street is overgrown. I had to cut some of the trees going down Christian Hill Road because they haven't pruned or done anything. And maybe they could do some early landscaping up there so we didn't have to see the construction and all the mess going on. We've looked at it for 4 years. And another thing I'd like to know is down where you enter from the west, I'd like to know how they're going to put another lane in. They don't have enough room to add another lane. That's all.
Thank you. Anybody else?
James Root, 25 High Ridge Road. White pines look beautiful when they're planted, when they're small. Doesn't take long for a white pine to grow and become a pretty ratty looking tree. I'm not a supporter of white pines in any kind of landscape. The other thing is that we've had just a little bit over the typical amount of snow this winter. I'm very curious as to where snow removal snow would go on this particular piece of property on a winter such as this. Because there does not, with the proposed landscaping, there does not seem to be much of any place that snow could get piled up once it gets plowed around the property. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Still here. Thank you for the presentation. I agree with what one of the residents stated. I think this plan is a vast improvement to the other plan. Thank you for also taking into account the clearer the setback and how much further forward the most rear building is going to be in this development. I'm disappointed about the continuing shrinking size of the commercial. That is the only portion of the that and the townhouses were the two portions of the property that were not part of the tax abatement, although that is not part of planning and zoning's consideration. I just want to express that, I'm a little disappointed that that it shrank, and one of the questions that I have more generally is probably more appropriate for town council, but just so for when you come to present to us, what is the retail recruitment process that you're going to go to? I drive past the development over in Rocky Hill frequently, and the commercial properties on that development are still vacant. So, what is the plan going to be to get a business to be moved in there? So when you come to the council, we're going to be really interested to hear that, because that's one of the only parts that we're going to get immediate tax revenue from under the current abatement. And then otherwise, what I would just respond to some of the other comments from the residents is that if they are concerned about trespass or other things like that, to make sure that you're in contact with the Cromwell Police Department in addition to the property owners. That way the PD can know to monitor if there's something happening that there's concern about. And then the last thing was just about the queuing of the cars in the front. The prior plan had a roundabout. The new plan had a 4-car queuing space. Is that going to be significant enough with the timing of the lights to be able to accommodate traffic? 4 cars can fill it pretty quickly. And those were my comments and questions. Thank you so much. And again, I really appreciate you making the investment in the town of Cromwell. I think the last estimate was this was a $100 million project. I don't know if that's gone up or down, but either way, that's a really important landmark to have at the entrance of the town. As you're doing demolition and other work, just make sure to keep in mind that that is the gateway to the town. So especially as we have 60,000 visitors a day for the travelers coming through that corridor, try to make sure that the site is maintained well. Right now it is pretty dilapidated, so we do want to make sure that it is, throughout the construction process, a good gateway to the town. But thank you for making the investment in the town. Thank you to your team for the professionalism, the willingness for feedback, and again for the
what I consider a vastly improved plan from at least a resident standpoint. I think it does a lot of things really well, so congratulations on that end. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Good evening, Chris Camberry, 10 Station Drive. I shouldn't have let the mayor go because he said a lot of what I was going to say.
Good mind.
But I'd like to encourage the commission to approve this tonight. Red Line closed, I think, 6 or 7 years ago. This is the second or third iteration. I think it's amazing. It's beautiful. I commend you and your team for bringing this here. They could have gone to any town in Middlesex County. There are a lot of other vacant places available. They chose this. We want to go out the red carpet and welcome them and thank them for coming. So I encourage you to approve this tonight. If you have any questions, make that a condition of the approval, and let's just get this thing going and get the shovel in the ground. Thank you.
Anybody else? At this time, I would have you answer all of the questions that came up from the residents, and then the commission will have its turn.
Great, so Rock, could you turn, or can we go back to the slide? I think maybe, let's go to the lighting plan, because there was a few questions about lighting, I think we can go through those. So, just to reiterate, what Jason had, mentioned during his presentation, we do have, full cutoff lights, they're dark sky compliant, all the lights are facing down, which is important, that's pretty typical nowadays, but wasn't as typical with the lights that are, currently on site. We did provide this sort of heat map type thing, but what you're seeing here, all the yellow is where the light will stop. So we're not getting any lights, honestly, going past any of the parking areas. We're not even close up to Christian Hill Road. So we did specifically color this plan so that you could have a little bit of a better sense of the lighting. Is there something else?
Yep. Rock, and then just for the record, also want to just point the fact out that they will be equipped with house shields, which will be on the fixture side. So as you know, these fixtures are aiming towards the property. It would be actually on the end side, so they'd also not have incidental light that they would see the light source. Thank you.
Okay. Rock, could you go to the site plan? It was earlier in the presentation, it showed the fencing. Yeah, here you go. Okay, so there was a question about, several questions about the walking trail, and how will people on the walking trail know where the property lines is. And understandable question, even if you look at this aerial right here, you're seeing where there's almost like an extension of a lawn onto our property now. So there is an existing split rail fence. In yellow, we're proposing to continue that in the dashed line. We didn't have the fence go any further because it starts getting very wooded there, and we didn't feel like putting a fence all the way through the woods made sense. If there's other demarcation with signs or something, we could look into that. I know we did speak with Dan Parisi, who runs the sewer commission, about gating it. He says they're not doing that on any of their other sewer easements, so we wasn't really inclined to do that here, but we do obviously have this defined walking trail. As Jason mentioned, we've got landscaping on both sides of that as well. So could somebody like jump over the bushes and run into those areas? I guess it's possible, but we tried to put those fences there where the closest houses are to separate that. So that's how we address it. We definitely can address that or talk about that further with the commission. One thing I wanted to point out regarding the building height is, yes, what we're proposing for building height is taller than the hotel. But what we did with this project was maintain the previously approved building height. So it was important for us to be consistent with that maximum building height. 56 feet as far as what the building is, but it's as tall as what was previously approved. So we're not proposing to get any higher than what was previously approved for a building height. Okay. Regarding maintenance, we do have on-site property managers that are on the site. They're obviously dealing with issues for the residents, but also for the site. deal with handling all the landscaping and all that maintenance. And also, regarding snow, I know we have the snow plan, Rock, in the plan set, which went out to the commission. We did demonstrate with cross-hatching on that, the areas that we can handle snow. Obviously, as I mentioned previously, our clients operate apartments in several states that receive snow, so we're very well versed in handling snow, and it obviously is a joint effort between the property managers and the residents to coordinate moving cars so that you can clear snow. But we do have areas to put the snow, and if we get some crazy storm like we've gotten recently, that it gets basically put into trucks and taken off-site once we reach capacity. But I know we had discussed with staff a condition of approval, which I think you have put on other properties, that there's a certain time limit that the property owner has to remove the snow. And that's to maintain the available parking. We have no issue with complying with that, because it's obviously important to us as well that our residents or commercial patrons coming to the site have space to park. So we don't have any issue if the commission puts that condition of approval on our application. Jason, do you have a feeling about the white pine comment? We can change it.
Yeah, please do.
Okay, all right, not a problem. We can change the white pines. All right. Let's see what else. Okay, I did want to point out too, there was a comment regarding traffic counts, and was the state doing additional traffic counts on the roads. Mark did his own traffic counts when he did our traffic report. So that's updated data. If there's been any recent developments in the areas where Mark took the readings, those are accounted for in the parking readings. And I know we looked at 2 days, a Tuesday and a Saturday. So those are current numbers, and we use those to conduct the traffic report. Once we also added in a growth factor, because that's what DOT had asked for. Let's see here. We did have a question about the queuing, and I believe Mark answered this in his remarks, but what our current traffic report shows is that we can fit 4 cars in the traffic queue, and that's obviously 4 in that lane that's going to turn to the left, head east. But we can fit all those cars there. Once the light turns green, then those all flush. So we had more queuing in the other plan because we needed more queuing, because the lefts were backing up because they didn't have a light to exit. So that's why we have less queuing, because we don't need as much with this current proposal. And that really has to do with the light. Okay. Rock, do you want to talk about the comment regarding car lights to Coles Road?
Yeah. All right. Again, Rock Inland for the record. I believe that the 2 neighbors are actually on the southern side of this, or planned south. So if you see that there's the trail that's leading down, they're actually directly, across the wetland from us. So they have the easement as well as essentially the landscaping in between. One thing to note, they're actually at approximately elevation 15. Our site is at about 48 as you're looking towards the property. So you have a very large elevation change, one. There's a retaining wall that's along that edge. So if they're at a single story, the lights aren't really going to be shining directly at their property, but there's also because of safety guidelines, because the wall is there adjacent to the parking, there's a fence that's associated with the wall. One, to make sure that there's not going to be any issues. As well as there's a guide rail that has to be installed as well. That guide rail is typically about 2.5 feet tall. That would be blocking basically any cars light directly aiming at them. Additionally, most people are parking and then going, off into their units. They're not going to be sitting there for very long with the lights on. But there's already obstruction, technically several tiers of obstructions. But we don't really anticipate that lights being an issue, if that is the case.
There was an additional comment about just sort of general maintenance of the site. Obviously, we're contract purchasers for the site, so we don't currently own it. Once we, provided we get approvals and we close on the property, which I think we would anticipate being sometime in the summer following the OSTA approval, and we start doing the site work, I don't think we'd have any issues cleaning up some of the overbrush and things like that that was mentioned. So I don't see that as an issue. And obviously there's a lot of excavating that needs to happen on site, so anything remaining would be removed anyways, but to the extent that there's other overgrown areas, we could certainly address it and set up a contact person during construction that the neighbors could speak to. And then obviously once the project is open, we would have on-site property management that could be in contact with the neighbors should there be any ongoing issues. Okay. Anything else, guys? What? Oh, sure. So there was a comment regarding the building height, and our buildings are 5 stories tall. The building, this building, which is the multifamily building closest to Berlin Road, that basically has an exposed basement on its southerly side. So there are 8 units along that portion of the building. When you read the definition of building height in your zoning regulations, you take the height of the building based on the median grade around the building. So when we do that analysis, it is 5 stories, and pretty much for the whole building, it's 5 stories except for that little portion in the front where we have 8 additional units. So I think that was the confusion earlier with the 5 or 6 building heights. But just to be clear, there was an approved maximum building height of 56 feet, which comes out to elevation 106, and we haven't exceeded that. We obviously have changed the grade from the previous proposal, so that sort of bottom portion of the plan has changed, but that top line has been maintained throughout the process. I'm happy to answer any follow-up questions or
Right,
questions
now
from the
we will
commission.
go, anybody else from the public? Last call, because we're moving now to the commission.
Well, do I count as the public, or do I get to speak as the economic development coordinator?
Well, whatever you want.
The economic
This is,
development.
this is America. You can speak.
We clap now or later?
So, my name is Stuart Popper. I am the former Director of Planning and Development for the town of Cromwell. I like to refer to myself as Director of Development Emeritus. But I also am the Economic Development Coordinator for the town of Cromwell. And I'd like to just talk a little bit about the history of 372 and just talk a little bit about development in Cromwell. So Cromwell has changed very much over the last 14 years in a positive way. We've been very fortunate. We've seen the old Kmart shopping center renovated. We've seen that whole side of 372 rebuilt. You know, I mean, everybody can remember when Kmart was there and the other stores and when they all closed. And we're very fortunate to see how that development has changed. And what's very important about this site, and many of you have lived in town much longer and have been around here much longer, but I remember, everybody remembers the Lord Cromwell. Everybody went there for so many professional classes, for so many personal events. It has a very long history. And in many ways, when it was at its peak, it really changed that part of town. And now it's declined, and in many ways, that whole end of the highway of 372 has declined. And it's very important that we see that end of the highway regenerate. We've seen the old ShopRite shopping center, we've seen the old shopping center across from that, where the rehab center is, we've seen all that redeveloped, we've seen 136 Berlin Road redeveloped, and we really need to see this end of the highway redone. And from an economic development perspective, we're very excited about that. The Economic Development Commission is very excited about that because we want to see, I mean, let's be kind of honest. That's not the prettiest part of town. And some of the surrounding buildings around there are not what we like to think of as Cromwell. And what we're hoping for, and I think that this development will be a catalyst for the redevelopment of that whole area. And that's why I'm here to basically speak in support of this application. And I want to correct something the mayor said, and I apologize, but you have to understand, on the tax abatement that was granted for this property, it was for the value of the building for 10 years, and it's going to descend. It'll start at 100%, it'll go down to 90, 80, 75, 50 over a 10-year period. But what is going to change dramatically is the value of the land that that building is sitting on. So you have to understand, just like with the Amazon building, okay? They got a tax abatement for the building. You don't get a tax abatement for the land. The tax abatement is only for the building. So now the value of that land, those 12 acres, is going to increase dramatically. So we're going to be collecting a lot more revenue than we're collecting right now, and that's why tax abatements are looked at positively, because the tax abatement is only for the building, and the land value increases. I would also like to point out that there's going to be quite a few motor vehicles parked at this development, and those motor vehicles are going to be residing in the town of Cromwell. They're all going to be paying taxes in the town of Cromwell. And any office space that's there is going to be taxed. The personal property within that office space is going to be taxed. So there is a tax abatement, but tax abatements are used by all the municipalities in Connecticut to encourage development because it's a win-win situation. You don't just lose money on the taxing of the building, you gain. So in closing, I would just like to say that, you know, this development, we see this development as very, very important in the redevelopment of that whole part of Cromwell. And there's a lot of buildings around there that we would like to see redeveloped, made better, and we think this will be a real trigger for it. So the Economic Development Commission feels very strongly about this development, feels very strongly about seeing this redeveloped. And I'd like to point out one planning perspective. You know, you've got 372, which is very commercial. We all know how commercial that is. We've got Christian Hill behind it. In traditional planning, what you look for in a transition from a very heavily commercial area to a residential area is something like this, which is going to be a low impact use. This is not going to be a shopping center with a stop and shop backing up to Christian Hill Road with deliveries at 6 o'clock in the morning. Okay, it's not going to be a shopping center with nightclubs in it, making noise. It's not going to be a it's not going to be a factory. So this is going to be a residential neighborhood butting up against another residential neighborhood. So that's, from a planning perspective, that's a good thing. So I just wanted to say those few words. I'm happy to answer any questions, but again, from an economic development perspective, we're very excited to see this end of 372 start to be redone. And it's going to have a real big ripple effect on all those properties around there. And believe me, because I've gotten a lot of phone calls already from a lot of realtors who are looking at properties around there because of the value is going to be changing dramatically. So we would encourage you, the Economic Development Commission would encourage you to act favorably on this application. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Popper. Okay, now coming down to the commission. I'll start at this end. Do you have any questions or anything for?
No, I think we're pretty clear.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a couple, quite a few actually. I'll try and group them together. I guess my first question is actually for Andrew. So, in addition to the master plan revision, we're looking at site plan today.
Yeah, so this is a site plan revision. Like Attorney Walter Hope spoke to earlier, there's a previous site plan that was approved for this site, and that exists today. So this is a revision from that site plan, and you saw a lot of the elevations in comparison with the old plan and the new plan. That's because there is an old plan that is approved And this is a revision to that whole plan.
I just wasn't sure, like, usually you would get like kind of a more detailed site plan than like what this is. Is that available or?
Yeah, you got it at the last meeting.
Oh, we did?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's the architectural side.
And that was the second revision.
Oh, that was
too.
that one, okay.
Yeah, and that was
Thank you.
revised after first round staff comments. Yep.
Perfect, thank you. My next question, I guess, if you guys could just kind of explain the walking path and how you see it being used and what your whole reasoning is behind it.
You know, I can't remember who I was talking to this week. We were getting ready for this project. I said, where did we come up with this walking path? Because it was on the previous application. And how we've envisioned this is basically for an outdoor area for residents to walk. We think that it's probably going to be used by people perhaps with dogs, but that's what we're thinking. We don't see it as, it's obviously further from the building than all of our other amenity areas, the pool, the courtyard, the interior stuff. But if you're looking to get outside, that's why we propose this. I don't remember the original genesis of it.
Yeah.
I was trying to think, but when I went back even to all the 2022 plans, we always had it.
That was one of my questions. You are going to allow pets at the
Yes.
Do you mind switching to that walking path slide? The one, yeah, that's good right there, yeah.
We have a zoomed in, yeah.
Yeah. I guess I would like to see, you propose adding a split rail fence kind of along the property line. I would like to see it closer to the walking path, just to keep people further away from the residents' backyards. I can see that being a problem, you know, you got dogs out there, maybe in the bathroom close to their property line, stuff like that.
And I think I did suggest that to Rock and their team. I'm not sure if they were able to do that or not.
We had it along the property line.
Yeah, we still have it on the property line.
Yeah.
Yeah, like maybe in this, like that open grassy lawn area, maybe 10, 15, 20 feet off the trail, just to keep them away.
Yeah, and I suggested that as well in my comments because I thought it would be a good visual, physical barrier to keep people from wandering.
Yeah.
So there is an existing fence, and can you go to the rock, the one with like the yellow on it? We have the existing split rail fence there now. So we felt like that was appropriate to demarcate where the property line was.
Right, and it will demarcate the property line, but you're saying that the people are, could go right up, and you could have people hanging out,
Right.
I don't know, sunbathing, playing catch and stuff right on that grassy area, basically, which is currently, these people's backyards.
Yeah, well, I think our thought was when you have outdoor recreation area, listen, if you have a house with a backyard and you have a neighbor that butts up to it, you both could be in the backyard, both sunbathing. So I don't think that we want to be able to use our property. We specifically didn't put a pickleball court out there or anything active. We wanted to keep it passive and quiet. We're obviously trying to be cognizant of the people who are living right there. I feel like adding another fence in here, so basically a parallel fence or a double fence, doesn't seem to make sense to me. And I also feel that should a resident want to walk into that lawn area, I feel like they should be able to. That's our property. If we don't, you do not feel that the split rail fence is enough?
Personally, I think the added split rail fence, it's up against the woods, it doesn't do a whole lot. Maybe along that kind of access road it does a little bit, but if it were to say, kind of, I think it should, kind of parallel the trail a little bit more.
Maggie?
Yeah.
We don't mind. We'll add that.
We'll parallel the fence? All right, the client has indicated we will modify the application.
Excuse me, can I ask a question?
No.
Okay.
There were a couple of questions regarding snow removal. Did that get addressed with the town comments?
Yeah, so their last sheet of the architectural architectural set was a snow removal sheet. And the comment that we had on that was, we had everything removed right at the entry, so there would not be mounds there that would create a sightline barrier for cars coming in and out. And there actually was a note added to the cover sheet of the plan that any snow not removed within 48 hours would be trucked out. So it's officially on the plan. There is a snow removal sheet, and we had a comment on that as well.
Thank you. Will there be reserved parking spaces for tenants?
There will not, no. The only thing that will be controlled is we do have some tandem spaces,
Yeah.
and those would be for a single unit. But otherwise, we wouldn't assign parking spaces. And typically in a shared parking scenario, having unassigned spaces works better than having assigned spaces.
Are there any dumpsters on site?
Yes, so if you go to the trash plan rack, which I think is an architectural stack, we have within the residential buildings, we have trash chutes that are going down into trash rooms, and I've highlighted those in gray. There's one on that ground floor, which is the picture to the left right there, and then we have one on the residential buildings that's right there. So we have the trash rooms, or the trash chutes are coming down to the trash room. Those are getting compacted. It puts the trash into little totes. All those trash rooms are air conditioned, so the trash basically stays in there until it's trash time, and the property manager would manage how often the trash is getting picked up. But essentially, it would just get wheeled out and get put right into the truck, and then those bins would come back in. So that's for the residential part of it. For the commercial part of it, if you go to that plan on the top left screen right there, we do have an exterior dumpster. It's likely that the commercial spaces, when they do build out, they'll have some interior trash room, but then obviously the trash would be taken to that exterior dumpster.
Okay. So the trash rooms though, that gets wheeled out, there's no like dump trucks backing up to the building, right?
No.
Particularly the northern parking area, to get the grades work, you kind of depressed it into the site with a retaining wall around it.
Correct.
Is that just cast in place, or?
So, once again, for the record, Rock Emmett, we technically haven't decided specifically what kind of material it is. The only reason is when you do modular block, you have the geogrid that's associated with the modular block. Due to the nature of having the 91 corridor directly adjacent to us, if we were going to do modular block along that whole line, because you really don't want to change material at that point, you'd have a very long, geogrid that would then encroach into the neighboring DOT property, and obtaining a encroachment permit for that sort of work and excavation and installation is actually quite difficult. So we would actually anticipate that it's most likely going to be a cast-in-place concrete wall for the majority of the site.
Okay. Do you know off the top of your head what the tallest height of the wall is?
I think in the top left corner that's adjacent to the kind of the telephone tower, cell tower. I want to say it's a little just over 20 feet. Am I correct?
I think I read someplace 21 feet.
That does sound correct. Just a little over 20 feet. And again, because we're designing to make sure everybody's safe and everything, there's going to be proper safety, there's fall protection based upon code. Code meaning that if there's a adjacent walkable area that would have a fence, so adjacent to parking and all that. Specifically, if you have anybody walking around that northern area, it would more likely just be a shorter fence than a taller fence. Thank you.
Are you done?
I'm just trying to go through it. Maybe I just.
Well, why don't you make that list and why don't you start? Just because, so that we can keep moving, because I'm looking at the clock.
I was curious to, where the staging area is gonna be for construction, like how's the site gonna start looking when you guys get going here?
The grading sheet stuff? Switching.
No, we keep hopping around. Maybe this one. Again, for the record, winded, rock down. Most likely, the idea is actually to work back to front on most projects. So you kind of work on your most likely areas. Obviously, the first thing they're gonna do is go inside the building, figure out what they can deconstruct and make sure that they can get out of the building. So they're gonna be working from the back, going into, towards Merlin Road. One thing to note, about that, they'll probably most likely have, trailers for their construction management team, as close to the entrance as possible, both for security as well as safety concerns. That way, if there is an issue that's on site, EMS is right at their right entrance, you know. So we anticipate that probably that first temporary sediment trap that you kind of see just to the left, it would most likely be trailers just adjacent to that. And then that's where they'll set up, and that's where they'll kind of convene, do their safety moment before the day starts and all that sort of thing.
Okay. The other question I had was the entrance. I've seen a couple of different, basically, you guys had one lane going, now you got 2 lanes exiting and 1 lane. So do you guys have a final width on what the entrance is gonna be?
I don't actually know, man.
You wanna try that?
Yeah,
You want this?
There might be dimension.
I'd have to dimension it to give you the exact, but
Just roughly, I'm just curious because, so what I'm thinking about is trucks going in and out of the entrance during construction, and if we have enough room there, and I don't want.
So, proposed conditions we're looking at 32 feet wide.
32 feet?
Yep.
Okay. So during construction and, well, even when it's finished, how do you anticipate getting trucks in and out of there? As far, even during, like, getting, are we backing onto 372 or backing into the site, or how is that gonna work?
No, we would not anticipate backing up to a highway. That's not how it would work.
Right.
We would anticipate either, probably 2 lanes, one coming in, one coming out. Most likely they're gonna go directly to 91, when they're doing any sort of operation, so they're gonna be taking a right, which is the easier of the maneuvers, thank God. And just like the same thing, they're gonna be taking a left into the property, which due to the nature of Lowe's having the neighboring, signal, they can see oncoming traffic. It's a little easier taking that left into the property. So I don't foresee that being.
So are you gonna have a turnaround in the property?
Yes.
During construction?
Correct.
So that we can, because,
Yeah, that way everybody's heading outwards.
Okay.
You don't want backing up into, especially any sort of highway situation, you want to back up into that.
Right, and then, so even when the site is completed, how did you anticipate getting, like, the moving trucks for residents in and out of there? Even the garbage trucks, stuff like that, you know, I'm even thinking about, you know, you do have some 3-bedroom apartments in here, so the possibility of having to get a tractor trailer into this site is very real, and I don't see kind of a way, I see a way to get in there, but not a way to get spun around, and not a way that avoids having to back out onto 372.
Understood. So, the nature of, if you could just go to the site plan, the nature of actually the parking lot design actually allows for people to circle around the property. So,
even with the trees on every
island? So we had turning movements for fire truck movements that are able to do the loops. And honestly, if they're able to do that, most tractor trailers are technically SU30s, single unit truck 30s, can make the loops. As well as one of the Attorney Hope had mentioned that the trash location for the dumpster pickup, if there was, you know, the commercial space, that was directly head-on, intentionally, so that they could come in, pick something up, and then immediately take that left, and then go through the one-way to take the immediate right and go off into Merlin Road. So we've done turning studies to make sure that all these are compliant. And I think the one largest vehicle that we were having the most issues with is an articulated one, which is like a WB62, which is very atypical for a multifamily residential such as this. That's like the large Amazon trucks.
Yeah.
Obviously, we don't anticipate this coming here, but it can accommodate SU30 and below as well as the fire truck.
Okay. And just to clarify with the trash, because I kind of was on the same page with John with that a little bit. So when you do the bales and you pick up the bales, what's picking up the bales?
People.
Right.
Oh,
so, like what kind of vehicle?
So people are picking them up, they're wheeling them actually to the vehicle, and then the vehicle picks them up.
So just like a regular box truck or something is picking them up, or
of the same size,
so
but
it'll
be a specialty service that they get dedicated for the property. It'll be
Okay.
off-peak hours, obviously. Because
Yeah. So you're not looking at a large, really a super large vehicle to do that or anything like that. Okay.
And also just to touch on one thing, and I don't think it was brought up. Interior, there are also trash compactors that are also making it a lot easier to make sure that this material gets off the property.
Okay. And it's just really just one exterior dumpster, and that's it for the commercial, and that's it.
Yep.
Okay. That's all I have.
Finish, John? Yeah, if you don't mind, I just have two more real quick.
Let John finish. Right.
I'll be quick, I promise. I think I saw in one of the comments, is there a sidewalk connection between the facility sidewalk, the resident sidewalk, and Berlin Road sidewalk?
Yes. We accommodated to make sure that there is essentially a complete loop to make sure the residents can get onto Berlin Road if they were to go to the ride share area or go find transit.
Perfect, thank you. And then I know we touched on the rooftop units real quick. They're going to be fenced in.
Yep.
Do you anticipate any off-site noise generated from those?
From way up there, I don't think you would particularly hear anything.
I have one more question.
Sure.
Sorry. So just looking at the trail real quick, when you go down the trail, down the pipeline, if you continue down the pipeline and you get to 372, are you just at a dead end there? Or is there a way to get out of there, or is there a retaining wall there? Can you get on 372?
Yeah, they're way down. There's also
it's pretty far
there's
down,
also the
right?
brook that's located right there as well, so there's a culvert.
I'm just thinking if somebody takes the nature trail and then continues down the pipeline and starts trying to loop back around, you're gonna pretty much hit a dead end at 372, right? And then you're just gonna have to double back.
Pretty much. And once again, we'll probably, because that's technically town property because there's an easement over it.
Right.
We most likely put appropriate signage to say X amount of feet until turnaround.
Okay, just to have something, just to clarify, so people don't think that that's a way out or something.
Yeah.
Would probably
No, that's very
be a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all I have.
I'm all set.
You
Good
all
job
set?
on the design.
Love it.
I have something.
What?
I have something. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Could you please just get on the record, Rock, to address my comments on my February 26th about specifically about the extra landscaping,
yes,
the shrubs or any kind of low grasses in those areas, and the irrigation, just for the commission's concern.
So we did receive comments from Bruce, the CEO, and while we did initially get some comments, we did respond with an updated landscaping plan. Just wanted some additional plantings along that area. So we are more than amenable to increase the amount of plantings along there, as well as the management staff as well will maintain those plantings along Berlin Road, and they will be irrigated.
And one last thing, there was a concern in speaking with one of the commissioners about the wheel wash station, and I said that should this be approved, that we could work out whatever type of wheel wash station that the town engineer, myself, and your group feels is appropriate.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
No issues.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay, I have a couple. I want to talk about the affordable units. How are these to be managed?
Sure, so, the, property owner would manage the affordable units, so we would, our staff or somebody we would hire would be, checking incomes and, doing the calculations to confirm, that the tenants, income requirements comply with what's required. Typically, that information is shared with the town once a year because I believe that the town then has to report that to DOH every year when they update that 830G list on your percentage of affordable units. So once we get COs for those units, then we would start reporting to the town. We could work out with Andrew, at what time of the year he wants that data, and it probably depends on when he has to turn around and give that information to the town. But we're happy to manage it. I know I've done applications in other towns where the towns want to do right. Okay, so we're fine to handle that.
Okay, yes.
Okay.
Because I had already spoken and just said, we're not hiring somebody here.
Yeah, we can handle it.
Okay.
And provide the documentation.
And that's by law. Okay, thank you. And also for all your parking here, I hear about for the apartments and all. What about guests?
Yes, so we did include guests in the analysis that Mark did in his parking report, right? Is that
Correct.
Yeah.
That 1.8 per unit is.
Well, 1.8. I mean, really.
Yeah, part guest, part small portion of guest, and the rest is.
Well, how many? How many guest units are you having for these 400 and some odd units?
0.2. I think it was 0.2. Yeah, it was 0.2 of the 1.8 was.
0.2. How many parking spaces are guests? 260
0.2 of
503.
503. Right.
So Rock's got the calculator out.
Okay.
And while Rock is doing that math, what I will point out is obviously when we do projects like this, we're always working with our traffic engineer. We're looking at the zoning regulations, but I know what I always do is I ask the client, is the parking going to work for you? They manage apartments all over.
I know.
And so they feel very confident in the parking that we have based on our unit mix and based on our commercial square footage. And Rock, you got
So 267 times 0.2 is 53.4. So 54 spaces technically per.
About 54, Rock says.
All right. The only reason I'm saying that is that you can have all of your parking people. We have the people that come to these apartments that don't have enough parking spaces, number one. They don't have anyone for guests. They may have 3 parking spaces for 15 units. So I'm just bringing this up way ahead of time, just to say is that, all these little figures that you have, they don't work all the time. Okay, the lighting. The 20-foot poles that you want to have here, usually we have 14. So are they all going to just come down like this for the lighting?
Look for the picture.
Yeah, they're once again, just for the record, Rock, and as Jason Williams articulated about the lighting, yes. So dark sky compliant,
so what
full
is
LED.
This? How is this dark sky?
The bulb ones?
Yeah. Where are they going?
Yes, those are actually in the courtyard areas to identify where the pedestrian access ways are.
Right.
The ones that are the flat, those are the ones for the parking spaces.
Right.
Yes.
So are these anywhere near any of the houses?
No, they're all in the interior courtyard spaces. So the U shapes, they're going to be in those amenity spaces.
The reason I'm bringing this up is because I have something is behind me and my house is illuminated.
Mm-hmm.
I have to have dark shades throughout my whole house because I'm like Fenway Park.
Hopefully you get a good hot dog.
Okay.
Better than Yankee Stadium.
No. Parking areas. The trees, I see that you're having trees in all the parking areas.
Correct.
Are they like in a
Narrow
row?
strips. No, so once again, we had a professional landscape architect essentially design the locations of all these trees and make sure that they're appropriate street trees for landscape islands and in between parking
But
spaces.
these are islands, right?
Yeah.
That you're putting them in.
There's islands, correct.
So that when you now have somebody coming in and we have snow, and you have all these islands, and you're trying to get rid of the snow and things like this, are all of these areas here, are they all going to be, what did I put down here? irrigated?
Yeah, we anticipate that the majority, if not the entire, landscape area will be irrigated.
So you're gonna do the entire landscape to be irrigated?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that is, again, Alpine creates a premium product and they wanna make sure they go premium
Okay.
product.
And you're not gonna have any of those pine things?
No, white pines are out from under home, out of fashion.
Well, because we had them along here, they're all here. Okay, I think that does it, because I know you talked about the snow story. I do have to tell you that the snow is a big problem.
Oh, yeah.
So, but that's gonna be in, that it has to be out of there in 48 hours.
Correct.
Okay, parking, retaining wall, and the sewer easement, on that, I know that you have that walking trail coming down on the sewer easement.
Yes.
Okay, I wanna ask this. Somebody is walking from your complex and they trip and fall. You're taking out insurance as they're on the easement, because that, even though we have an easement, it's still your property.
Yeah.
Yes, sorry, I can't actually speak for you.
Well,
Yes, we're going to have property insurance on all of our property, including the portion that has easement.
okay, I just wanna be sure, cause I have my other hat as the CWPCA chair. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that that was taken care of. Okay, I guess I'm done. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I guess they let me go last. Usually I have to wear the black hat. Tonight you're lucky, I get to wear the white hat. Your project is well thought out. I usually have a lot to say that is not very complimentary. You win the prize. Question I have for you is the size of your swimming pool. I think you said 20 by 40, and my thought is that that is severely undersized for the number of residents you have on the property.
I would turn to Jason Williams. He was hoping I would do that.
So, again, Jason Williams, SLR. We used to do multifamilies with gigantic pools.
Yeah.
And what we've seen over the years is people are not using the pools that much. What they are using are the spaces around the pools. And so even though in this conceptual graphic we show a certain amount of chaise lounges, we will probably increase the chaise lounges. The chaise lounges are the most important aspect of multifamily pools right now. People will go in and dip in the pool and then right back into one of the amenity areas.
And in your amenity areas, do you anticipate having the ability for people to have an outdoor cookout, a grill, you have mounted grills, that kind of thing?
Absolutely. You can see there represented by the number 13.
Okay.
We have an outdoor kitchen area, so this is cabinets, granite countertops, commercial stainless steel grills, a sink, islands, essentially what you'd find in a nice indoor kitchen.
Great. The only other somewhat negative comment I have to make is regarding the nature trail. It ends on private property. It begins, the Lowe's property, from your property boundary to 372 is all Lowe's property, and that's private property. I don't want to see you encourage people to trespass on private property. To the north, that is several homeowners. And I'm going to defer to Andrew, and I'm going to defer to Bruce, but I would like to see some type of either fencing, or I know the sewer department has to get out there to mow. Some type of a fencing, some type of a gate. Again, I'm going to defer to Bruce and Andrew, but in the event it becomes an issue where there's kids, trespassers, kids on e-bikes, you name it. Anything bad can happen, and it's going to happen on somebody else's property. So, again, I'm not looking for a condition of approval with this, but I am looking for a reasonable compromise if there is a problem where Bruce can go to the property manager and say, we got to fix this. And they'll be agreeable to that.
Yeah, and so I will just say that if if there is a big objection to the walking trail, we can lose it.
I don't think you should lose
Okay,
it.
and I think
I think you should develop it even more, quite honestly. I'd like to see, instead of just a T and a hammerhead, I'd like to see a loop. I'd like to see that area utilized even more, because you got a lot of people, and a lot of people like to walk and hike and all that kind of thing. And you've got a great piece of property there along the stream and so on.
Yeah, and I think we could potentially, and I know you just said we don't need to do a condition of approval, but maybe we could do a condition of approval, Andrew, and perhaps work with staff to develop a plan that maybe mixes signage and some sections of fencing. I do think it's probably one of those things where would be most helpful to have a site walk and really look at it. I think what we're not really seeing on this plan is a change in topography, and I'm wondering if when we get out there, we're gonna realize that there may be certain areas that people really aren't gonna go into because there's such steep changes in topography, and maybe perhaps other areas where we think they might make that loop.
Yeah, I know the property very, very, very well, without getting into ancient history. Bottom line is, I know the property very well, and I don't think that you're utilizing the outdoor amenity as much as you could. It's a great property. That being said, I'm all done. Is everybody else all done?
Anybody else? Here? Okay. Nobody's gonna come.
Okay, so, Andrew, you want us to do these, first of all, we need to close the public hearing. So let me make a
Wait a
motion.
minute, before you do, Andrew, because of what was said about the open space,
Yeah.
can that be a ongoing thing that you'll be working with the developer?
Sure. Attorney Meg Hope, did you want to make that a formal condition, or did you want to just work that out with us?
I think we can work it out.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm okay with it
no,
not
I
being
got
a
it.
formal condition.
Okay.
You know,
It's pretty minor.
we have a great staff in town. I think you're gonna really enjoy working with them, and, they are very good at what they do.
Okay,
So, first I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
public hearing. All in favor?
Aye. Okay, so we're gonna do these one at a time. Are we ready?
Yes. You got the motions in front of you?
I got it.
Okay.
I got it. Okay, first and foremost, motion to approve application 2603. I move to approve application 2603, application for a special permit for the Special Flood Hazard Overlay District under section 3.5.8.23 of the Town of Cromwell zoning regulations for a mixed-use development at 100 Berlin Road and 15R Christian Hill Road. Alpine Residential LLC applicant, M360 Berlin Land Holdings LLC owner, with the following stipulations. The applications be approved according to the plans and documents submitted. The site plan set be revised according to staff review comments. All those in favor?
You need a second.
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 Okay.
All those in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Moving on.
Motion to approve application 2604. I move to approve application 2604, special permit to modify an approved master plan under section 3.6.c, parentheses 5 of the Town of Cromwell zoning regulations at 100 Berlin Road and 15R Christian Hill Road. Alpine Residential LLC is the applicant. M360 Berlin Land Holdings LLC is the owner, with the following stipulations. Number 1, the application be approved according to the plans and documents submitted. Number 2, the elevations dated February 26, 2026 will become part of the final plan set. Number 3, the site plan set be revised according to staff review comments, including Andrew Armstrong, Director of Planning and Development memo dated February 24th, Joseph Palmieri, Water Operations Manager email dated February 26th, Bruce Driska, Zoning Enforcement Officer memo dated February 26th, John Egan, Chief Building Official email dated February 25th, John Harriman, Town Engineer memo dated February 25th, Dan Parisi, Sewer Administrator email dated February 23rd, Maura Esposito, Public Health Director memo dated February 26th, Harold Holmes, Fire Marshal email dated February 24th, and those are all in the year 2026. And that is the end of my motion to approve for 2604.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. That motion carries. Next. Motion to approve 26-05. I move to approve application 26-05, application for site plan modification at 100 Berlin Road and 15R Christian Hill Road. Alpine Residential LLC applicant, M360 Berlin Land Holdings LLC owner, with the following stipulations. Number 1, the application be approved according to the plans and documents submitted. Number 2, the elevation dated February 26, 2026 become part of the final plan set. Number 3, the site plan be revised according to staff review comments, including Andrew Armstrong, Director of Planning and Development memo dated February 24th, 2026. Joseph Palmieri, Water Operations Manager, email dated February 26th, 2026. Bruce Drisca, Zoning Enforcement Officer, memo dated February 26th, 2026. John Egan, Chief Building Official, email dated February 25th, 2026. John Harriman, Town Engineer, memo dated February 25th, 2026. Daniel Parisi, Sewer Administrator, email dated February 23rd, 2026. Frederick Sifidopoulos, okay.
No, he's out.
Our Fire Chief Fred,
Okay.
Chief of Police.
No, he's out. Sorry, strike that one.
Okay, so this.
You got the wrong version of it.
Okay, so
Fred's memo is
strike
not
that
part of
entirely?
it. Yep.
Good.
My apologies.
I don't have to pronounce his last name. Maura Esposito, Public Health Director, memo dated February 26th, 2026. Harold Holmes, Fire Marshal, email dated February 24th, 2026. That's the end of that one.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye. And last but certainly not least, memo to approve application 2606. I move to approve application 2606, application for a special permit for filling under section 5.6 of the Town of Cromwell zoning regulations at 100 Berlin Road and 15R Christian Hill Road. Alpine Residential LLC is the applicant. M360 Berlin Land Holdings LLC is the owner, with the following stipulations. Number 1, the application be approved according to the plans and documents submitted. And number 2, the site plan set be revised according to staff review comments.
Second, please.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much,
Thank you.
for a wonderful presentation, and we look forward to our new wonderful 100 Berlin Road.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure working with you.
Let me know when I'm ready. I feel so bad.
Yeah, don't unplug it.
I got it right there.
Thank you.
No, not yet, Rock.
No! I did all that work. We're not done yet. We got over here.
You got,
Okay.
Oh, yeah, no, I just didn't know exactly what slide.
I just want to give one thing for communication.
Oh, that's true.
Well, hold up. I want to give one communication.
Okay.
Yeah, you can take that.
I just didn't have a place for it. Yeah, something popped into my mind.
Andrew's holding us up.
And I wanted to bring it up to the commission. So, in light of these large packets, I've mentioned in the past I would like to go digital, and I'm leaning towards preparing a digital packet for the next meeting, emailing it to you. That way you can look at it on your phone, your tablet, your home computer. Is there anyone here that is adamant about getting paper copies? And you may want to start out with paper copies, that's fine. You may find that, over time you don't need it.
It depends on the thickness.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
so here's the
Depends
thing.
on what's on
This
Like
is
if
what
you
I
need
reduced
plans, you gotta see them.
that pile to, by taking out all the duplications.
That you don't need.
Sure, yeah,
So,
I understand
so
that,
we
yes.
don't have the duplications. And I understand the methodology behind it so that each application was 100% complete with comments. But would it be easier if on each comment, at the top of the comment, it applies to several? Just put this applies to 2602, 2607, and put in one copy of the comment.
Sure, yeah,
And
absolutely.
reduce the amount of paper by doing that.
Yeah, and this is a little bit unusual. We have 4 applications for the same property. That's not gonna happen.
That doesn't
very
happen.
frequently.
But even the synopsis of the comments was perfect. That's all I needed.
Yeah, and
we don't need to.
and that's actually how I do things. Is
Yeah, that was nice.
In my past
I like
jobs,
that.
I paste all the comments and the responses in one document, so it's all there, and you're not flipping back and forth.
Yep.
For everyone's information, obviously I'm new, and I was just kind of stuck in the middle of this process.
No, I get it.
And really, everything was still flying back and forth, coming together, you know, the day
until the
right
last day.
before and the day of.
No, I get it.
So we really had a lot. It was a fire drill to get this thing done, and it was a lot of work by us. So, but is there anybody? I do want to go digital. I think it's the way to go. And is there anybody here who's adamant about getting paper copies?
I'm not adamant about it, but if it's gonna be a lot of pages, I like having the page. I don't wanna bring a laptop here.
Okay.
And unless the town of Cromwell wants to buy me a nice shiny new laptop.
I can't promise anything.
Then.
Yeah, no.
You might.
Denied.
I don't wanna bring a laptop.
I'd be happy to.
And I think that, for my purposes, sitting here, digital isn't gonna work.
Okay.
Just because I need the documents in front of me to be able to refer to. And since this mess is a mess.
Yeah.
And it needs, if this got straightened out and I could rely on this for the presentation to be able to watch it and know that, it was always gonna work and that TV would always work and so on, it'd be one thing. But right now, everything is too problematic.
Yeah, I would agree. It bothers me that our technology isn't horrible. It
brand new.
is underwhelming.
It's brand new.
Upgraded.
So in the past, we used to get a digital version.
See that
in the
screen
past,
right
we
there?
used to get the digital.
Yeah, and I'll send out the digital version if anybody would like a hard copy specifically, just let me know. But
Yeah.
we're gonna try and go digital.
I'm not against it. Right now, I don't think it's gonna work very well because there are too many glitches in this system for our presentation to, you know, sitting in this room.
But you will, so when
As
you
far
get.
as reviewing it at home?
Yeah, and that's the good part, is you can review it at home, on your phone, on your
Yep.
tablet, and look at it well in advance of the meeting. So hopefully you'll be familiar with it prior to the meeting. But then, you know, there's still things to discuss up on
I
screen.
wait till the night before.
But yeah, the plan is to go digital, and Mike, I'll make sure you get a hard copy.
Yeah, we'll give it a shot.
Yeah.
We'll give it a shot.
It would just reduce the amount of time and money for paper and ink, the efficiency. It's just, I'm so used to being digital, it was a little hard to go back to paper copies, so that's part of it.
But how would you
I'd like to move us
transmit,
forward.
like the 11 by 17 maps and that kind of thing?
So we would get that digital. So any applicant who submits something as a part of the requirement, not only will they give us paper copies for staff review, but in public inspection, but they will give us a digital copy of all plans. That's part of the requirement for submitting, and that's, you know, standard for a lot of towns. Because we need to put all of that together, we need to put the packet together. We're not gonna sit there and scan every plan. They're gonna give it to us digitally, so.
You can actually zoom in on it.
Yeah, and that's
You
the
can
good
zoom
part.
in on the little font.
You know, and as it is now, a lot of our documents are scanned, they're skewed,
Yeah,
they're second
I
generation.
get it. I know I
It's
can zoom in
difficult.
on it. The question is, if I'm sitting here, I would like to have something to refer to when I have an applicant in front of me, so that I can have a piece of paper.
Right.
You can find it promptly on a
because
piece of paper.
Yeah, and I can't find it promptly on there because that's not always working. Maybe I'm old school, maybe I'm
You are.
stuck in the past.
You
And
are.
I
Okay.
freely admit
Everybody
that.
has their own preference.
But you know what?
But
It
it's
worked
not
for
a bad
71
point.
years
Yeah.
for me, so guess what?
Hey, we'll blame Stuart.
No, that's fine.
I'm really old school.
but I guess bottom line is, I'm gonna move us to going towards digital, and, anybody who wants a paper copy, we'll prepare it for you.
So 7 new laptops. Works for me. What do you think,
It would be nice. No, I'm actually
Can we
used to having
appropriate
the
the funds
commissioners
for
having
7 new laptops?
laptops in
From
front of
economic
them.
development.
Alice, can we work on that?
Yes, after August.
Anyways, let's just finish this up, actually, because we do have the minutes.
Well, no, we can't do
We don't
that.
have quorum.
I
We
don't
don't have enough people.
Okay, so let's
Okay,
adjourn.
motion to adjourn.
Second.
So moved. Bye.
And also, thank you for all your help.
Thank you guys.
Stuart, for what you had to say.
Thank you guys.
Stuart, it's over.
You did great up there, Stuart.
Stuart,
It's
you
over.
did it.
You did it.
And I didn't have to wear a black hat tonight.
No, I mean, you was a good
Damn.
guy, you was a good guy.
How often does that happen?
That's right.
Yeah, no, it's no problem. Okay.